G'day and welcome to the absolute shit show that is our podcast on the Esky, starting 45 minutes late today. Survived some technical difficulties. It turns out if you pour a glass of water on your laptop, it doesn't steam up like in the cartoons yet. I think we're going to be okay. We've got some sound bites that we're going to test out. Hopefully they work, knowing us probably not. And a bunch of these Capital Brewing Coast Ales that are left over from the man on my right's wedding a few weeks ago. How many of those have you got sitting in a fridge somewhere?
There's a few cases.
Woo!
Should get us through to Christmas.
Yeah.
We'll see how we go on a Christmas episode.
On the Esky Christmas party.
Yeah. All catered for.
Sounds good. On today's show, we've got 2 World Cups going on. Cricket World Cup down under, Rugby League World Cup on that rainy little island that half this country hails from. Plus some big trades in the AFL. Week 7 in the NFL. NBA's here. Opening week, baby. EPL, a bloke called Haaland keeps doing a bit in that. Arsenal on top. Woo. Final round, a crazy dual championship fight card in the UFC 280. We'll break all of that down. Plus preview the upcoming US Grand Prix from the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Please remember we have timestamps. You can skip on YouTube to the sports that you like if you don't like listening to us dribble the whole time. And we do have socials. Check it out. Instagram, Facebook, etc., etc. We do have 20% off at Carlton Draft. Use the code ESKY for 20% off any Carlton Draft merch. We like to kick off the show by pouring water/beer on our devices. That's all done.
I've shouted the laptop a beer already.
The laptop got a water. Sean, how are you? And who would you like to shout a beer to this week?
I've got a main one for Bathurst. We'll get to that in a second. I wanted to start off following on from my berry chat. Jared this week finally got a haircut. So he's looking nice and trim. So I let him know that on the socials, and everyone's getting stuck into me about, oh, you wish you looked as good as him. And I was like, yeah, well, we're kind of related. But either way, it's good he's got a decent haircut finally.
Also true. One AFL player rig, one IT rig.
He only got that rig because, all those Christmas breaks getting stuck in.
I'm sure it was all you, bro. If it wasn't for the knee injuries. It wasn't for these injuries.
Well, I think the brain injuries probably. Anyway.
And anyone that's listened to this podcast can attest.
Yes. But my main one is for Bathurst, for SVG, Shane Van Gisberg getting the win up there. Final time for Holden getting the win. Would have been a three-peat for him, but he had a blown tyre last year, so he didn't win that, but he won the year before. But otherwise, excellent job from him. It was a great Bathurst. A lot of cars on the lead lap. Only finished, I think, the top 10 were covered by 10 seconds, essentially. So a great race in all accounts. Great finish for Holden. And he did a good job backing up the next day for the Today Show. He showed up and said hello, and I'm doing well, and then had to nick off to do a spew, and left his co-driver as the main one to do the interview there with Kyle Stefanovic. So
Kyle Stefanovic.
Kyle Stefanovic. He's got a brother. They're close enough.
I don't think his name's Kyle.
Anyway, Stefanovic. So. Good job all around. He probably doesn't need a beer. He's had plenty, but there you go.
A few JD and Coast been racing enthusiasts. Didn't back up for the Today Show as well as Nathan Cleary did after the final. Did very well on No Sleep, shirtless. Enjoy the beer if you can stomach it. SVG after your Bathurst win.
Also, drink and drive responsibly.
Drink and drive. Well, don't do that at all.
Yes.
Perhaps.
Well, yeah.
I'll do mine, and then I'll throw to yours. I'm going to shout a beer. It probably would kill him. Actually, no, I think he has had a few. I did see him doing a shoey, actually. Of course, talking about Ned Brockman, the 23-year-old Western Australian Sparky. He's run from Cottesloe Beach to Bondi Beach. For those that are unaware, maybe not Australian, that is from Perth to Sydney, the pretty much west-east length of this vast continent that we call home. That's nearly 4,000 Ks, 2,500 miles for any US listeners. That's 100 kilometres a day for nearly a month and a half. So over 2.5 marathons a day. For 50 days.
He was going for a record in that as well, but he got injured, I think, a week in. So he had to essentially tape his ankle and run the rest of it with a bum ankle and still put up
his whole body. Well, his whole body was fucked by the end of it. Like he would go through his injury list, and I don't know if there's a bit of mayo, but he was saying that there was maggots in his toes. I don't know if they're actual physical maggots, but I can't imagine the toes were looking too good. You could imagine the excruciating knee pain, hip pain, the ITB, the band that runs down the outside of the thigh. That couldn't have been feeling too good. The calves wouldn't have been feeling too good. It's absolute punishment that he put his body through for a month and a half, all for a good cause. Raised, I think, close to $2 million.
More than $2 million.
More than $2 million.
Yeah.
For homelessness via the charity We Are Mobilise.
Yep.
And just to put in the sheer distance that is from Perth to Sydney, for Monkey's done the due diligence. Try saying that 10 times fast. Of sort of putting this in different areas, maybe where we might have a few listeners. For the US people, that's the equivalent of running from Disneyland.
Yep.
To Disney World.
Yep. So California to
cross country, essentially.
Florida. Yep. Cross country. Wow.
Via Phoenix, via El Paso, via Houston, Jacksonville, finishing up in Orlando.
Yep.
Or if you want to do the North American, as the crows flies, it's New York to Colombia.
Yep. New York to Bogota.
Crazy. That is
take that as you will.
Caveat as the crow flies.
As the crow flies.
Bit hard running on water.
For our Kiwi listeners, that is the length north to south of your beautiful country twice. So down there from Invercargill up to the northern tip, and then you just got to turn around and run it back. For our Indian listeners, if you start in Chennai, you'd have to run across the country to Mumbai, then up to Ahmedabad in the central west, then up to Jaipur in the north, and then over to Kolkata. It's a casual 4,000 Ks there.
Sounds easy.
It's a fucking long way. It's a long way across the Nullarbor. There's not much either between sort of Perth and Adelaide, and then I suppose the last 1,200 Ks you get to run through great towns like Hay and Narendra and the rest of it.
Plus, it's a little bit warm as well.
Yeah, I think that's why he did it this time of the year. You'd probably die if you tried to do it in January or February. But shout out to you, Ned. It's garnered a fair bit of international attention. David Goggins of Stay Hard Motherfucker fame. He's been on it. Cameron Haynes has been on it. Possibly an interview with one of their friends, Joe Rogan, might be on the cards. Who knows?
That would be pretty cool.
But he's done an excellent job. He's raised a bunch of money for homelessness. And he's an absolute Aussie superstar. Enjoy your beer courtesy of the Esky, Ned Brockman.
Yep, kick your feet up.
With the maggots in them.
Yeah. Tasty.
Monks, how are you? You got new glasses? Looking a bit Harry Potter down there?
New glasses.
Finally see what he's doing.
Yeah, that's it. Maybe it means I can read better and probably talk better. I don't know.
Sure. That's what it's been this whole time.
Yeah, sure. I'll blame it on... Well, we'll see how we get through this episode and we'll see if I can blame it on that. Yeah. No, this week I am shouting Todd Gurley beer. So yesterday he announced his retirement from the NFL. After 6 seasons. So, yeah, had a great start. Was Offensive Rookie of the Year. His 2017-18 season, he absolutely blew up the NFL.
Won me a fantasy league. Thank you, Todd. Could use you this year, that's for sure.
I think he averaged 40 fantasy points in the playoffs as well.
Yeah.
So per game, that's
crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. I guess sort of helped that Rams team sort of build itself over the last couple of years. Strong run game, focus on that and help the team out. Then had a bit of a drop off last couple of seasons.
Banged up.
Yeah.
The knees were the problem. He had degenerate issues in his knees.
Yeah. That's it.
To the point of, I think, like arthritis, I think was the big concern.
Yeah. That's true. And then couple seasons ago, played for Atlanta.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Did not much of an impact that year, hey? No.
Yeah, and then sort of has been quiet last couple of years and
official retirement.
Officially retired.
How old is he? He wouldn't be 30. Or just 30 maybe?
When is he born?
He 28. 7 years in the
28,
league.
yeah, 28.
Yeah.
It's not
which just goes to show the shelf life of these running backs.
And we'll talk about CMC later, but it's
very interesting.
So, question for you: since 2015, who has the most touchdowns from scrimmage?
Is it Todd Gurley?
Yep, 79. He's one ahead of anyone, and he hasn't played
for the last 2 years.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Who's he ahead of?
Who's on 78? I don't remember off the top
Derrick
of my head.
Henry. That can be some work for you.
I'll do
Harry
that.
Potter.
I'll do that.
Are you going to do
that? I was the one that saw it. So.
Harry Potter must not go back to Hogwarts. They look good. No, they do look good.
Look all right?
Yeah. Yeah. If you need to go fight Voldemort.
Yeah, sure.
But anyways, enjoy your beer, Todd Gurley. A career, I should say, cut too short.
Cut too short, yeah. All the best future endeavours.
Any luck there on that? It's probably a hard one to chase up. So you said from scrimmage.
No, Devontae Adams is second at 75. Followed by Henry at 73, Elliott at 70.
Zeke, how about that, eh?
Melvin Gordon at 68.
There you go.
Kamara's at 67, Evans at 66, Tyreek,
That'll do.
Kels, Hopkins.
Top 100.
Yeah, some big names in there.
But that's crazy to think that a bloke that hasn't played for 2.5 years still is on top of that list.
Yeah,
With a 4 TD lead over Adams as well.
Craziness.
How long has Adams been in the league for?
A year longer, I think.
A year longer, yeah. Well, yeah, that just speaks even more to Gurley's
how good his career was, yeah. Enjoy your beer, courtesy of the Esky.
That's it.
Coast Ale. Mop of the week, boys. Rugby League has gone international and they didn't get off to a great start. The England-Samoa game, which we'll talk about in a second. There was a big sound failure. The Kaiser Chiefs were set to play Ruby, Ruby, Ruby. That's the only song of theirs I know. And the sound cut out and nothing could be heard from the mics or from the guitars or from...
Yeah, I think they had like a complete power failure from the ground.
It was the ground.
The pitch. So they could get nothing off the pitch.
It was a power thing
I
at the ground.
believe so was the problem.
Anyways, it looked pretty ordinary, and the
Billy Idol sends his regards.
the lead singer was doing laps trying to fire the crowd up, doing 100-meter sprints. So that's the mop. There wasn't a lot of mop behaviour, which is funny because 2 weeks ago we had about 8 candidates for a mop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyways, that's the mop there.
That's all right,
boys. We're going to try a soundbite.
Oh, we're doing this.
We're doing this. Let's talk.
You changed it, you muppet.
I didn't change it.
What was that?
What was that?
You got to change the soundboard to the second one. The one we just set up.
You didn't tell me that.
Okay, I think it's set up.
I told you this would happen.
Let's talk about some cricket.
Yeah, now we go. There we go.
Don't sue us. Okay. T20 World Cup has kicked off down under. The play-in tournament, it started last week. Sri Lanka get through. Netherlands, Zimbabwe, Ireland in. Any big names that I missed there?
The West Indies.
The West Indies, that's right. The blokes that won it in 2016. Everybody knows Dwayne Bravo, what champion. Didn't make it. It speaks volumes to where the West Indies are at in cricket in general.
Well, this is meant to be their format, though.
That's what I was going to say.
This is their format. This is their format.
Yeah,
so goodness knows how these 2 test matches are going to look at, after the World Cup when they play us here. We might be in for another 2.5 day test. On paper, if they were able to field their best squad, or their best players, they should be powerful. But there was a debacle around Shimron Hetmeyer. He deliberately missed a flight, and then they said, no, you can't be part of the team. I don't know what exactly that was over, if it was pay dispute or something. Big Hetty, who we've seen dominate the IPL recently and get big bucks in the IPL. Him being in the squad and then a last minute pulling out, and then Dre Russ and Sunil Nareen, 2 of their other big sort of IPL stars, didn't want to take part. I don't know what the reason is behind that. And then on top of that, we've also had the retirements of Chris Gale and Dwayne Bravo after last World Cup.
Yep.
So that's 5 massive names that if they were in the team, 2 retirements, fair enough. You got to move forward.
Yeah.
But you talk about Shimron Hetmeyer, you talk about
Andre
Russell and Sunil Nareen.
Yeah. You can't rely on the universal boss to be there for the next 20 years.
The Tom Brady of Jamaica, if you will.
I think the further point as well, like a lot of that also is, we'll label what it is. They're very much kind of the mercenary T20 players. The West Indies as a team isn't really a team. Like, even if they're in there, they've struggled in recent time and they haven't really built a squad that kind of plays together on a very regular basis. It's chop and change and guys get gigs and these guys go off, make big money in the IPL or within their T20 tournaments, and then they come back and hopefully try to play well. But in this case, it didn't work.
I think it speaks volumes to where cricket is as a sport now in the Caribbean. We see, us as NFL fans, a fair few Jamaicans and Haitians starting to come through in the NFL. You think in the basketball, there's a few people from the Caribbean, and probably soccer is probably the number one sport there.
We'll talk about the Jamaicans playing rugby league in a second. So.
Yeah, not very well,
not very well.
But you look at the EPL, and there's a lot of Jamaicans in the EPL, and maybe young blokes over there, a lot of them come from poverty and they've got to think, well, how can I set up my family for the rest of my life? Maybe I need to pursue a sport which pays the big bucks.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what, we talk about the West Indian Test team that we'll get a look at after the World Cup. They're playing literally for peanuts. Like the only way to make a bit of coin as a West Indian cricketer is to do the T20 circuits.
Yep.
But yeah, they're not going to take part. It's pretty crazy. We do say it's their format. T20 cricket. It's synonymous with West Indians, and they've won the whole thing twice. They're the only team to have done that.
And you just talked about they've got the components. I think it's putting it all together, have them all on at the same time, and then trying to get you want them to be.
I don't know if they outside of Puran, Jason Holder, you look at their team, Obed McCoy goes okay. No real superstar kind of names. Having said that, they should be getting past Zimbabwe, Scotland, Ireland, without that superstar factor. Yeah. But it's concerning. If I was a West Indian cricket fan, how the mighty have fallen, I suppose. It kind of sucks as well as neutral viewers that you'd love the sort of the flavour that the West Indian cricketers bring, the flair. They're always so cool. I
think that's the problem. Everyone remembers, even us a little bit, the 80s. That's.
Well, we can't technically remember the 80s. Especially you blokes might remember the first month or two.
Yeah, exactly.
The last month or two.
I meant the history of West Indies cricket from the 80s, and that's what everyone wants associates with them.
Yeah, exactly.
But also that was 40 years ago.
Well, that's right.
So
and you talk to anyone's old man that's a bit of a cricket tragic, and it's hard to comprehend. They were the world beaters, that teams were scared to play the West Indies, and they were just on top of the world. And it is 40 years now, I suppose. But even in the late 90s, in the Lara and Chanderpaul and back end of Courtney Walsh and Curtly Ambrose, they were a great team.
Yeah.
It's just going down the drain, really.
Do you know what? During that time frame, the rise of short form cricket. So as in, one day is coming into it, and then following on from that in the.
But this is their format.
I know. I'm saying that I don't want to say the dying of West Indies cricket is directly related to the short form coming in, but. It's kind of, you draw it on a graph and you see one dying off and the other one taken off.
Yeah, I suppose. Anyway. I suppose. I think
there's probably a lot more problems than just that in West Indies cricket.
Well, the administration is fucked, really. A lot of it comes down to sort of poor handling and corruption and funds going past possibly not where they should, but where everyone kind of misses out because we don't see the West Indies now in a major tournament.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's it.
All right, speaking of stinking it up, the tournament proper did start last night. The Super 12s kicked off with Australia getting absolutely belted by New Zealand. What was it? 89 runs. The Aussies went down to the Kiwis at the SCG. Let's pump the brakes. It's not panic mode yet. We often lose to New Zealand in the group stage and have won said World Cups before, 2015. Am I right?
True. But it also makes it very difficult for us,
well, considering
who's in our group as well.
Well, there's 6 teams. There's 6 teams in each group.
Does the top 2 go through?
Top 2 go through. We have to beat England, essentially.
We've got England and New Zealand in our group.
Or where we need results to go our way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's assuming we put away the likes of Afghanistan and Sri Lanka.
Yes.
I think it's that net run rate at the moment that might get us in the end.
Yeah, what is the net run rate? Minus a lot.
Minus 4.5.
Shit, that's it's about as bad as a net run rate can get.
Yeah.
We're at the bottom.
So it's pretty close to must win when we play England. unless England beat New Zealand, and then we have to rely on net run rate, which you wouldn't want to do. Yeah. I assume I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that we beat Ireland and Afghanistan, and then Sri Lanka. Yeah, they did lose to Namibia in the play-in tournament, but they're there. They're the Asian champs. On their day, they can beat anyone.
Yeah.
So is that game today? There's the Sri Lanka Ireland game, or
yeah, it's actually on right now. It's actually on right now. I think 3:05. So that should have just kicked off. Ireland, the West Indies beaters. I like the way they go about the business. Big Paul Sterling. He's a bit of park cricket about Big Paul Sterling. He's not quite Rakeem the Dream Cornwell size. I don't think anyone is. Probably left tackles aren't Rakeem the Dream size.
True.
But he's just a bit of a big fella, and he's got a good eye and doesn't like running quick singles. So I like that about Paul Sterling. Alas, it's going to be a must-win against England. Let's talk about last night, boys. An interesting selection in Finn Allen, who I hadn't seen a lot of. I thought Martin Guptill would have got the nod to open with Devon Conway. Guptill 36, maybe getting a little bit long in the tooth. Also, hand on my heart, don't watch every single Black Caps game there is. So maybe Finn Allen, deservedly had this spot, and he lit our opening bowlers apart. He scored 42 off 16, 5 fours, 3 sixes, striking at 262, if you don't mind. Pretty handy World Cup debut for him. Yeah. And then Devon Conway, the form of this bloke is insane. He just made it look very easy last night. 92 from 58 deliveries, striking at 158. Set up the Black Caps for 3 for 200 on the nose through their 20 overs. Our bowlers all struggled. No one really, was able to keep the runs down. Our most economical bowler was Mitch Stark. You don't say that very often. With 4 for 36 from his 4.
Question for you. Do you think those 3 aren't specialist enough for T20? I know the Hazelwood had a pretty good year in the IPL. Cummins, not so much. They took a liking to him in India. Do you think that they are the top 3 Australian fast bowlers?
Yep.
But are there others that specialise in the T20 format that maybe should be in there?
No, I think they're our best 3 quicks. I think Josh Hazelwood, there was a lot of sort of conjecture around him. Yeah, he's not a T20 player in the past, often would miss selection in this team. Over the last 12 months, arguably the best.
He was the best of those 3.
The best T20 bowler, full stop.
Yep.
So forget being, the best Australian quick. Yeah, he struggled a bit last night. Yeah, Pat Cummins struggled a little bit last night.
He got wickets at least.
But if you go for 41,
the wicket he got Allen out of, it was a perfect time for it, and it was a great ball. But they just couldn't put it together from there, and they ran away with it.
And put it this way, if anyone's to blame, you don't like giving up 200 on the opening night of a World Cup. But if anyone's to blame for us getting belted the way we did, it's our batting lineup.
Yes.
Not
made it hard for him to chase, but yes,
indeed,
we expect more out of that lineup. And I think did Maxi's top score at 28?
Something like that. We'll look at our innings in just a second. I do want to continue that discussion just a little bit because Rickens suggested Nathan Ellis, who we saw a little bit in the warm ups. I think he's not in the squad, so
Miss March also
couldn't go with him. Yeah,
I think Stoyne is probably a solid option to bowl there.
Yeah, but do you want four overs as well out of Stoyne or Marsh? I'm surprised maybe Maxi didn't bowl his little off break darts.
What's the rule on how the bowlers? Because isn't it don't you have to have a few of them specialised got to deliver 4?
Well, you can split your 20 overs however you like, but the max overs that can be bowled is 4.
Oh, okay.
So if you wanted say Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins, Zampa all to have 4, then you need to get that last 4 out of say Stoyne, Marsh, Maxwell.
Yeah, exactly. So you could spread it across them if they really want to.
Correct. Kane Richardson, I think that is in the squad. Maybe there's a bit of a push for his selection, but I think I don't.
Cam Green's in there now as well, but
again, I don't see Cam Green having to get the white ball in a T20 World Cup.
He's a Mitch Marsh like for like.
Exactly. I think when it comes down to it, I think you have to get 16 overs out of Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins, and Zampa.
Yep. Agreed.
And then your last 4 overs you split however you like. And credit to Devon Conway and Finn Allen. They were just really fucking good. They batted well on a deck, which our sticks struggled to score runs on. And I'll actually listen back to our pod 2 weeks ago, and we said we'd kind of preview the World Cup, which we kind of need to do tonight.
Yep.
New Zealand and Pakistan are my smokies. They're my smokies for this. They could win the whole thing. Yes, the big three in Australia, England and India are expected to take it out. New Zealand could win this whole thing, and Pakistan could win this.
Well,
whole
I think the tournament last year, Pakistan were the dark horse. I think we covered it pretty. That
they didn't lose a game in the group stage.
Yeah, they got really deep and ended up just dropping one there in the finals and didn't make it all the way. But they are a great T20 squad. So I agree.
And we'll get to them in just a sec when we preview India and Pakistan. Look, we've spoken about it. It comes down to this game with England now. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to show some faith, and I think we put away Ireland, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka. Although I'm a little bit scared of Sri Lanka, but I think we win those 3 games. It's going to be the game against England is like a semi-final.
The good thing for us against Sri Lanka, it's not in Sri Lanka, so
indeed, that helps us against any of the Asian teams. I don't know if I'd want to play Afghanistan. Not that you can play them in Afghanistan, but I wouldn't want to play them in the Emirates. So let's put it that way.
Yeah, I agree.
Speaking of Afghanistan, they did go down to England last night. England didn't walk over them. They won by 5 wickets. England's bowlers probably doing a good job over there in Perth, keeping Afghanistan to 112. And then Liam Livingstone top scored with 29 not. You got to watch out for some of these Afghan bowlers, Mohammad Nami, Rashid Khan. They're pretty handy. Look, do they bother anyone going deep into this tournament? Probably not. But expect them to beat Ireland and maybe even do Sri Lanka.
Yeah, they've come a long way, which is great to see for
especially and we talk about the West Indies and you know them traditionally liking the T20 format. T20 format is Afghanistan's bread and butter, essentially.
Did you want to talk about our scorecard? The
yes,
Aussies,
yeah. Well, our sticks all failed. You mentioned Maxi with the top score of 28,
followed by Pat Cummins.
Pat Cummins with 21. Finchy, not doing a whole lot. Davey Warner, and we probably didn't speak about it a couple of weeks ago. We mentioned how good Warner's form is. If Warner doesn't make runs at the top of that order, with Finch, having his well publicised form slump, and Marsh kind of, going in and out due to injury. Obviously, Marsh's form last year was incredible.
Yep.
It leaves us a bit thin.
Yeah, I think we saw a multiple in the leading games. It was Davey Warner would get your scores. You have a big run of outs, and then Matthew Wade would hopefully do us a job to sort us out.
Clean it up.
Yeah, and this one, unfortunately, Wade only got 2, so it didn't help us in that regard.
Yeah, indeed.
Here's a question for you. We won the toss and elected to bowl first. Do you reckon that was a mistake?
In hindsight, yes. There was a bit of weather around Sydney. Maybe they were kind of thinking, off the form of Josh Hazlewood in particular. Maybe we might be able to get on top of them.
I think historically chasing has been better in T20.
Well, in the World Cup last year, we won every toss and probably had a big influence in us winning that whole tournament. Yeah. It's also interesting to compare, I suppose, the World Cup from last year to this year. Mm-hmm. Last year, you're playing all of the games on small grounds in the Emirates and Oman. To here, the SCG is not a big ground, but the MCG is huge. The new Perth Stadium's pretty big.
Bigger grounds in general.
Exactly. So, going to be less reliant on power hitting and the ability to work twos, especially when you're playing in Melbourne, when you're playing in Perth, is going to be a big factor as this World Cup sort of plays out. It's not full panic mode, but it definitely not the start that we wanted to see. You probably don't even mind, copping the L. It's copping the L that bad, and then the effect that has on the net run rate. And we'll look at the odds in a second. We started from Aussie bookies being the favourite. Read into that as you will. I always think the Aussie bookies have a short price anyway. True. I think we've dropped
defending champs though from a year ago,
and it's a home tournament. Look, it's fair enough. I think few injuries as well that India and England are carrying. We're now after one game, we've dropped to the 4th favourite. Yeah. So, not full panic mode, but close.
Yep.
Boys, India and Pakistan played tonight.
The big one.
It's the biggest rivalry in cricket in general. There's a lot of chat that the MCG might be sold out. Could you imagine if there's 100,000 people in there tonight?
That'd be crazy.
Yeah. I think I know of plenty of people that have been buying tickets like months ago. Like they've made it family events, as in the lads have conned the wives into let's go watch a T20 cricket match.
Perfect.
And get around it. So I think it's going to be an excellent game. The rivalry is there. The main thing, I think, maybe we can talk about that now, is the weather. The weather needs to stay away. There's a big concern in Australia, especially on the east coast. It's been raining essentially from the north all the way down to the south. Tasmania to Townsville, essentially. Like there's rain everywhere. So I guess maybe in Australia's favour, if you know results potentially. Well, what happens if? Well,
that's going to hurt us. The only way that a no result helps Australia is if it's against England, and then we have to just try and pump the other teams more. Yep. I'm glad you mentioned it though, because we've had torrential rain down here. For the majority of the year, it's the wettest year on record in Australia.
So I know. I think today, southeast Queensland, so essentially the Gold Coast and Brisbane are going to get potential flooding events as well. So there's rain there. I think there's more rain coming in Melbourne. Of course, we saw the floods last week in Melbourne.
In Melbourne and rural Victoria.
Exactly. So there's plenty of rain about. And we were talking about it in the groupie to each other. It's like, well, there's only really one indoor stadium that can take cricket games that it hasn't been set up for this World Cup and it's not being used anyway.
And that's Etihad.
Well, Marvel now, so...
Apologies.
But the naming rights, changing. But either way, nearly all...
Don't kill me, Captain America.
Well, of the 6 stadiums they're using in this, 4 of them are on the East Coast. You, of course, Gabba, SCG, MCG, and down there in Hobart. So... there potentially could be a lot of games that, are rain affected or have potential no results, and it would be a very short tournament if that happens. But
the thing is,
I don't think we can do anything. Like that's the thing.
Of course,
there's no replacements.
But the thing is, it makes a loss like we suffered last night even more dangerous, because if you get rained out, say against Ireland and Afghanistan, from an Australian perspective, you're up shit creek. Like that's you done.
Well,
So not only are you sort of relying on results and you hope that someone can beat England, that's going to help us out. Say if Sri Lanka were able to beat England, that would help us out a lot. You're putting your destiny even further out of your own control with the impact of the weather. I might just actually chase up where the Australian games are.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at the Melbourne weather for today for their game. They're only
should
saying
be right for today.
They're only saying 5 mils today, but 20 to 30 tomorrow, and then rain all week. So, it's. Could you want to throw the other game up and see?
Yeah,
has it actually started?
Going that's down in Hobart. Yeah. We play Sri Lanka in Perth, so hopefully we get a result out there, and then the England games at the MCG.
Yeah. What day is that?
28th. 28th. What's today? It's only Thursday or something.
Thursday. I'll do a quick weatherman Sean on the end of the day.
Changing professions.
Yeah. He's gone from neurologist to meteorologist.
I probably got the arse and legs for it, but I've got nothing up top for it.
Arse and legs to be a doctor or a meteorologist?
A weatherman. Let's go.
Oh, okay.
But yes. Thursday's looking all right. 50% chance, 0 to 1 mils. So
nothing. That's nothing.
That's nothing. So I think we're good Thursday. Anyone playing on Monday might be in trouble though.
Ireland playing Sri Lanka currently. Sri Lanka in the 4th over of bowling to the Irish, 1 for 19. Big fella Sterling at the crease.
Looking a little overcast down there, but that's Hobart, so it's
I think
protected.
Should be right.
It's looking right there, so hopefully that game goes.
Anyways, on the Esky / on the weather chat.
Yeah, well, let's not curse the tournament, and hopefully we get all the games in and it doesn't, piss down rain for half of them.
Indeed. India, Pakistan tonight. The big sort of mental advantage I think that Pakistan will have over India is last World Cup, that first game, highly anticipated. Pakistan absolutely pulled their pants down, won by 10 wickets. The form of Babar Azam and Mohammad Rizwan, I believe they're both in the top 3 for rankings for Test bats,
they've been unreal,
which is unbelievable. Their bowlers go okay. I suppose the concern with Pakistan is the depth, say, compared to India. If Rizwan and Babar Azam don't make runs, it probably... You think Pakistan are in trouble.
Yep.
But if those blokes go out and make runs the way that they have been, watch out. There could be another upset on the cards.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going to bring up our favourite friends that never get back to us, despite me sliding into their DMs. Never. Sportsbet, and look at some tournament odds. outright. Here we go. So, according to our good friends, unofficial sponsors at Sportsbet, England are the tournament favourites now at $3.10 after Australia were the favourites before last night. India, $4.33. New Zealand, $5.50. Australia, $6. South Africa, $7. Pakistan, $10. That is good cash for Pakistan, and then it starts to blow out.
I think South Africa as well. We haven't talked enough about them. Their T20 form of late as well has been very good.
Has been great.
Especially at home, caveat. But yeah, they've got some bats there that they can definitely play well in the T20.
Their bowling, I think, is scary. Like, legitimately might have the best quicks getting around in world cricket.
Yeah, another solid team top to bottom. So
depth for me is an issue. I think if Quinton de Kock and Riley Rosso don't make runs, as per the kind of Pakistani model, I think South Africa may be in trouble, and they've got to get past India and Pakistan. The rest of that group, that's a 3-horse race.
Yeah,
essentially.
Well, both groups are kind of designed that way, but
Bangladesh in that group could cause an upset. I don't see it happening. Shakib Al Hassan, coming off that long, lengthy ban a few years ago, was one of the best T20 players in the world. Mustafir Rahman, who as Delhi Capitals fans, we can see what the Fizz can do, off the long run up with the left arm quicks. But I just don't think that Bangladesh have the depth or form to be worrying either.
Agree.
Or any of those three teams. And then Zimbabwe and Netherlands making up the numbers there. But Pakistan, I think at $10, I think is pretty good money. Let's talk India. India, perennial kind of disappointments when it comes to big tournaments. On paper, probably the best team in the world. It's going to be hard without Jadoo and Bumrah. That hurts big time. You're talking about one of the ultimate fast bowlers in all forms, in Jasprit Bumrah not being available. And you talk about
they got a lineup for tonight.
No, they won't. I don't think just yet because it's seven. So cricket, you won't get the 11 until an hour before. An hour before the squad did get announced.
Yeah, we looked at that. I was just saying if they'd announced who was going to be in that lineup.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they line up. Kohli will play. I think that ton of a few weeks ago definitely helped his his efforts to be selected. But yeah, no Jadoo hurts. Jadoo has the ability to put a game on his shoulders. It doesn't matter if it's Test cricket. It doesn't matter if it's 50-over cricket. It doesn't matter if it's 20-over cricket. He can really put a team on his shoulders and get you through. That said, the depth of India is stark. It's so that they're so deep compared to any other team, even England and Australia. The depth of India is unbelievable.
Well, I guess the good thing is though it is limited. It's the guys they brought with them. So
that's true. That's true. The other thing is, a lot of them are unproven in Australia. We talk about Surya Kumar Yadav. We talk about Shreyas Iyer. I don't think that they've played short format cricket in Australia. If they have, maybe they've played a couple.
Yep. But I guess the biggest concern though is Australia in Australia. If Australia gets knocked out, then it kind of doesn't matter as much in the Australian conditions. I'm saying the Australians play the Australian conditions the best out of all the teams.
Yeah, but you know who else plays well in Australia? New Zealand and South Africa.
Yeah, true.
So, yes, there is that caveat of, they're not in Australia's group, so it doesn't matter. Yes, they have to play South Africa, and then assuming they get out of this group, they're going to run into a New Zealand or maybe Australia if we manage to get out. So that's going to be the big question mark around India. I think at $4.33 at 4-1, I think that's pretty good really for this team. Again, it's so much of it's going to be the mental fortitude of these boys to think, yes, on paper we're good. We're superstars. We've got 1 billion people behind us. Can we go down in foreign conditions and take home some silverware, which they've really struggled to do of late?
Yep. So how long does the tournament run through? We've got another...
for another month, probably
2 weeks.
5 weeks. Yeah, so
2 weeks group stage
we've got...
into the
So it's 5 games in these Super 12s. So I think that goes for about 2.5, 3 weeks, then straight into a semi and then straight into a final.
Yep.
And then the test summer begins for us with West Indies and South Africa.
Another wicket there for the Sri Lankans.
In summation, you know who we haven't talked about? England. Let's talk quickly about England.
The favourites?
Absolutely dished us in those warm-up games. Was lucky to get down to the Theatre of Dreams last Friday night to have a rain-interrupted 6 overs, no result. So that speaks volumes to the weather that we've been experiencing recently.
Yeah.
No Jofra Archer is big. No Johnny Bairstow. Both of those guys, if fit, probably walk into this side. They are carrying
When was Archer last time he played for England?
ages. Yeah.
Has he been dealing with back or?
I think it's stress. I think it's stress fractures in the back. The classic injury for fast bowlers.
Yeah, they don't want to rush him back,
The
do they?
injury that Pat Cummins missed 4.5 years of cricket from. If those two are in the team, you'd think hands down favourites to win this thing. Carrying probably the best T20 bat in the world at the moment in Joss Butler.
Yep.
Go okay in Australian conditions. Obviously, you showed that in the warm-ups. Weren't that convincing last night against Afghanistan. But
Is he still captain for England?
but
Or was it Roy?
no, I think Butler.
Butler still getting.
I think so because
Stokes is not doing it yet.
and Owen Morgan stepping down.
Yes, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was Butler that picked
Butler's
it up.
captain.
Yeah, I was just confirming that.
Yeah, they're favourites and should be. It's all going to come down to that Australia-England game. That's massive at the MCG.
Yeah, I think the favourite tag ends up being a little bit of a curse though, because I think India were heavy favourites last year, and it didn't go so well for them. So yeah, I think Australia probably prefer not being the favourites anymore.
Last time Archer played for England was in T20 match, March 2021.
Jeez, yeah. So what are we? October? Well, that's 18 months. 18 months since Archer's
He
played
didn't play
for
cricket
England.
last year.
Yeah.
Remember that. So interesting.
Let's go. We've got cricket pretty much every night now for 5 months down under. So not too bad.
Can't complain about that.
All right, you ready for sound bites?
Oh, wait. Yeah.
We've got another World Cup on. It's a Rugby League World Cup. That's actually me doing the sound, so I probably could have just done that. All right, boys, let's talk some Rugby League. We spoke at the top of the show about the shitstorm, the power going out.
Yeah, the opening ceremony, as you will.
The opening ceremony. I tell you what wasn't shit, England's performance in that first game. Absolutely dishing Samoa, 62-6, 2 tries each for Dom Young and Elliot Whitehead. Tommy Mackinson, 24 points for the Poms. The Poms started as underdogs in this game. Look,
Well, you look at the Samoan team and
on
the
paper,
names
very
on
good.
it. Yeah.
On paper, very good. I
think
think
the
Luai without Cleary, probably, there was a few holes exposed there. But also England in England, people were disrespecting him. They could, if Australia should be favourites to win this whole thing.
Yeah, definitely.
If anyone is to push the Aussies, New Zealand might be good, but England at home, they've got that massive home ground advantage. Thoughts?
And they've been playing, I think, more of a team as well. I think that's the problem with Samoa, as you saw, is a lot of name guys that really hadn't played a lot together at all, and some questions of the coaching staff as well following that match too. That what has been going on over there for the Samoans, but England, I think, is it Pushley or something? The 5'8" for England. He was absolutely dynamic. He put Dom Young away for 2 of his tries. I watched the first 60 minutes of this game before the connection dropped out for us for about 20 minutes, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, so I was like, yeah, I'm done.
That's a good effort being up at that time.
Yeah, but I think
Jack Wellsby is that bloke's name.
Jack Wellsby, that's on. They were only, I think, up by like 28 points by that point as well, with like 20 to go. They put the sword through them at the end there. And they really shouldn't with some of the names that are in that squad and some of the go forward they've got. But the English squad, they've, Georgie Williams has played here. He's a really pretty good half. Sam Tompkins is the fullback's been great for them for a very long time. And they've got some young talent there. And I didn't even realise Dom Young played for Newcastle all year and I think scored 14 tries on the season. So it's
probably speaks to how much NRL you watch.
Yeah, well, how many Newcastle games I watch. So
yeah, fair. You know the interesting thing around Dom Young? Jamaican heritage.
Yeah.
Could have, if he wanted to play for Jamaica. Obviously, you'd probably take England if the choice is available to you. I think the thing that maybe caught us napping a little bit, admittedly, none of us really watch much Super League. So, you can go out and say, oh, yeah, Victor Radley's a great player. Elliot Whitehead's a great player.
Radley was very good for them, by the way.
Because we see them week in, week out. But a lot of these Super League guys hand on my heart, I don't watch too much Super League. And when you hear about the Man of Steel often being Australian or being, a guy that's kind of struggled in the NRL, you think, it's a tier below the NRL, yada, yada. But when you've got to factor in home ground advantage and maybe the Super League players still being pretty good, England are a formidable team.
Well, there's plenty of Australians, of course, over there playing in the Super League, which then ups the competition. It's yes, it's a second-tier competition, but it's still a very good competition. And, played differently to how the NRL is, the way it's refed. And, of course, we're playing under international rules. I wonder, because the Super League finished about 2 months ago as well. So they've they are rested, but also maybe rusty. But the NRL guys, they've only had, say, 3 weeks since the end of the
Not
season.
even, man. Like the Panthers guys in this team, they had 2 weeks, and you had Crichton, you had To'o, you had Luai, you had Tyrone May. They're coming off 24 regular season games plus Origin for a couple of them, plus 3 finals.
True, but then also
the flight over there, the fatigue factor has to come into it.
But also, then those guys only lost 4 games all year, so there is a level of talent there. I think losing the Hammer, who I think broke his leg, and then May, who dislocated his hip, didn't help them late, and that's probably why this game got away as it did in that last 20. But yeah, some concerning signs there for Samoa early in the tournament. Impressive for England. I think it's been the big 3. It's been England, New Zealand, and Australia have been the dominant force in these Rugby League World Cups in recent years.
Yeah, well, they're the only 3 that have won it.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
so they're the big 3, and I think Australia's like 11. Yeah. England as Great Britain is maybe 3, and New Zealand 1, something like that.
But of course, also better in England. The Australian tours of England have always been better playing at home. So, yeah, like you said, we'll see what happens there and how it progresses.
Just go quickly through France and Greece. Greece's first Rugby League World Cup, led by Lachlan Ilias, from South Sydney. The French team, I don't know many names on their team sheet. They've got a big advantage in pretty much the whole team plays at 2 clubs, Catalans Dragons and Toulouse Olympique. So you talk about knowing each other's games and the way and the chemistry, et cetera, et cetera. That's a big advantage. France they got pretty comprehensively beaten by England last night, 42-18, which is a better scoreline than Samoa did. So it's going to be interesting, I suppose, that France-Samoa game. Can France upset that star-studded Samoan lineup? I think that game might be tonight as well. Group B, let's talk Australia. We speculated as to how the Aussies would line up, 1 through 17 or 1 through 28 and 36 and 42 and the rest of those dumb numbers. Yeah,
I think we hit the nail on the head of this, especially, and then also going into the Scotland game, that all of them would play, they'd get different combinations, and that it is it's not a super long tournament, but it is a tournament. They're coming off, as we said, a lot of football. These guys will get chances to play, and we've seen that. We've seen different combinations, especially in the back line, the centres, but also resting up some of the forwards. So, I think good job us.
Let's run through that team quickly. They did have 8 debuts, 8 debutants. Teddy, Fox, Latrell, Val. So we got all that. Val did play in the centres. They didn't push him out onto a wing for this one. Murray Talangi getting his first cap.
Yep.
Munster DCE, so the Queensland connection.
Yep.
Then Tino getting his first test cap. Ben Hunt started as the 9.
Yep.
Gerbo, Angus Crichton, Jeremiah Nanai, Cam Murray, so debutants or first caps to Crichton and Nanai. And the bench consisted of Harry Grant, who was excellent, I think man of the match in this, Reuben Cotter, Pat Carrigan and Jack Whiten all getting their first green and gold jerseys.
I think this was what we said would be their, say, number 1 squad. And against a Fiji squad, which has good names in there as well.
A couple,
it's fair to start the tournament off.
Yeah, probably not as strong as a Tonga or a Samoa, but probably that next tier down.
Yeah, a good kind of chemistry, get a warm up game in there, and then we'll roll out the second stringers, the B team, as you will, a little bit to then play the Scotland squad.
The B team looked pretty good.
Yeah, they're still, yes, it's still a fucking good squad.
84-0, the second biggest margin ever in a Rugby League World Cup. We were looking at Australia and Russia 110 to 4. The Russians actually, they scored a try, which is full credit to them.
Yeah.
Back in 2000, I think we're looking at.
Yep.
So
November 2000.
yeah, that's it.
How closely did Scotland play these games back to go back as well? Because they played Italy before this.
I think they had 1 day more rest. 1 day less rest, I should say, than the Aussies.
So
4 days?
yeah.
Dates?
So Australia versus Fiji was on the 15th. Scotland versus Italy was on the 16th. And they played on the 21st.
That's 5 days. 16, 17, 18, 5 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fair enough rest, I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's what you'd be expected to do in the NRL. You're expected to do 4 days if you have to play Sunday to Thursday. They try not to do that.
True.
So the ins for this game: Matt Burton, Campbell Graham, Nathan Cleary, Regan Campbell Gillard, Liam Martin, Isaiah Yeo, Lindsay Collins. So of those guys, Cleary, RCG, Martin, and Yeo all featured in the grand final. So that's why they were given the extra 5 days.
I think
of rest.
Cotter is hurt. I believe.
Yes, I believe that's correct. The Fox scores 4. He leads the tournament so far with
Best
6.
winger not to play for New South Wales.
Yeah, there's a few Freddie memes getting around.
Yeah.
A few Freddie memes and
Big
Fox
time.
Fox not getting the start in Origin this year.
Joke.
He's the fastest man on planet Earth according to Gus Gould, and he looked at it in this one.
Did you see the ref chasing?
Keeping that dude had some wheels.
Yeah. He did get a bit of a head start, but he didn't lose much ground to the Fox.
He did
at all,
not.
so.
He did not.
Yeah, good
if
effort
Josh
there.
Addo-Carr's the fastest man on earth, that referee's the second fastest man on earth. Third, Usain Bolt.
Yes.
The try of the tournament maybe scored in garbage time of this one. Matt Burton flicking it through his legs. Fox kicking it to himself, diving finish. Those short in goals have to play a factor as well. It probably changes, your kicking game a fair bit. It's probably about 6 meters compared to about 10.
Yep.
Which definitely you've got to factor in.
That's soccer pitches, isn't it? It's 'cause they're playing soccer,
exactly.
essentially,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it probably, if anything, it'll affect the grubber game. Into
Grabbers
goals.
more so than anything.
Yeah, crossfield bombs are probably still okay because you're trying to drop them on the goal line anyway. But
Exactly.
it's the short chippo chops and the grubbers through that'll probably you'd lose out a little bit. Plus, they don't pad it as well. So if you do slide across like Fox
bang,
did,
straight into the sponsors.
Yeah, exactly. So, who did that and dislocated a shoulder? Someone did that for Australia.
Good question.
Well, it was a couple of years ago. Anyway,
Don't know.
I feel like Piggy Riddell did it, but I could be wrong.
I've seen a few in the NFL going near the camera guy.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Aaron Patrick from Denver did his ACL hitting a dude on the sideline the other day. So
Tim Patrick, isn't it?
No, Aaron Patrick.
Aaron.
Tim did his in the preseason.
Two Patricks, 2 ACLs. That's Denver's season to a T.
Oh yes.
Boys, the big questions, I suppose, for this lineup moving forward. Obviously, the number one, the elephant in the room, Nathan Cleary or DCE.
I think they'll stick with Cleary. I think that Fiji squad, like I said, is the ones. DCE's the 2, and they'll stick with the Queensland connection there with Hunt at 9. And you got to go with Teddy anyway, but that's the spine.
Stick with DCE.
Yes, DCE at 7.
You said Cleary.
I said Cleary is 2s. I said stick with the 1s.
No,
maybe.
Anyways,
DCE,
you're saying the spine, their best spine, and what
the Fiji squad, the 1s with DCE, that's
and Teddy.
Yeah.
So you're saying Teddy, Munster, DCE, Hunt.
Yes.
Interesting. A lot of people have said, look, like here's the example of how well this team can play
but it was
with Cleary. Yes, as a caveat, I suppose, is Scotland. How about their jerseys? Jeez, no good. That's a Parramatta Eels / Scotland jersey featuring a bit of tartan. That's going to be the biggest call that Mal's going to have to make for this tournament, surely. I know as New South Wales fans, a lot of people that I talk to think Cleary should be the out and out halfback in the games that matter. But the connection with Munster, obviously the 9's going to be a Queenslander, whether it's Grant or Hunt or
It's hard because it's not like you could have Cleary just sitting on the bench either.
You probably can't carry him as a 14. No. So it's going to be a hard decision. Who'd want to be a coach? Either way, they're looking pretty good. Hunt and Grant, I think. When the business end of the games come through, I think it's probably just a matter of who starts.
Yeah,
I think both of them will be there.
Again, go back to what we said in Fiji. I think it's Hunt starts and then Grant can come in and take that role, and whether you slide Hunt out or he can play in the second row, they'll rotate that through.
Talangi and Campbell Graham, this is going to be interesting because Val Holmes played as a centre in the first game and then played off the bench in the second game. Val Holmes, obviously, I think, in our best 17.
He's the goal kicker as well. So
so who is going to be the winger? Campbell Graham's scored a few. Again, caveat Scotland. That's going to be an interesting decision for Mal to make. And then the forwards, I'm not really sure on the best way that they line up at all, really. So it's open slather, I think. I won't put it down to personal battles, 1v1s.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of talent there in the forward pack and exactly how they line up. I think probably the only certainties for the big games as forwards, I think Cam Murray has to be a certainty. I think Isaiah Yeo has to be a certainty.
Yeah, and I'd probably no, maybe not.
Who are you thinking?
I don't think of bench players, but I in the forward pack, I think it would just be more health.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think it'll be the availability of health because we've already seen Cotter banged up a little bit. So, yeah, I think that's kind of where some of those decisions they'll be made for you. It'll be who are the guys that are in the best shape, they're the fittest at the moment and aren't injured. They'll probably roll with those guys going into a lot of those games. But overall, until it's England or New Zealand, I think they'll keep playing with connections a little bit as we've said and see how they go.
Fiji smacked Italy overnight, 2 tries to Billy Kickout and Micah Sevo. Pretty hard to see Fiji not going through now. Their points difference is crazy and they've got Scotland to play.
Yep.
Group C, Ireland smashed Jamaica 48-2. Luke Keary leading the Irish around. Jamaica getting their first World Cup points. New Zealand 34, Lebanon 12. Joseph Manu, we'd like to talk about him a fair bit here on the Esky.
Playing one.
What about the Chooks? They've got 3 guys playing fullback in this tournament.
Well, I think
with Joseph Sawali.
Well, I think Sawali playing for that Samoa game showed how dynamic he is as a runner and returner, but also how unders, I guess, he is as a the talent at the fullback and all the other things that go into playing a fullback. Of course, he hasn't played there at all.
Fucking 19,
exactly.
I think that's kind of stuff that will come into his game.
Yeah, I definitely think he's playing for Samoa as part and parcel, or part of the reason for trying to push his. I'm a fullback and this is what I can do, and you can see the elite running ability.
Indeed.
But I think he's still on the apprenticeship of everything else that's involved in there.
He's third string at the Chooks as a fullback because Joey Manu was unbelievable.
And we talked about how when he got hurt in the final series, how big of an out that was for the Chooks, and it ended up being a bit of a difference there when they played the Rabbits the second time.
Lebanon, not bad on paper. I think a little bit lacking in their forward pack.
Yes.
But the likes of Jacob Kiraz from the Dogs, Josh Mansour, Adam Dewey, who got sent in this. Can you chase up? Does he get suspended for that their upcoming game?
Yeah, I think he said to them, the ref was like, give us a call. Your calls are shit, give us a call. That? Yeah, and got sent off. Abuse.
And Mitch Moses, that's pretty handy 7 running around. Outside of Australia and New Zealand, there's Mitch Moses, you'd take over George Williams, wouldn't you? Probably the 3rd best 7 getting around in this.
He's playing the New Zealand squad. It's
Jerome
Brown and
Jerome
Hughes. Yeah. And Hughes, I think, is hurt at the moment a little bit as well.
I can tell you they played overnight. Muggs, do you find any news there on what's Adam doing? Sorry, at Bloke in the Bar, stole that from you, Denon. Or do you need a minute?
Keep talking.
I'm trying to find Jerome Hughes news of shit rhymes. Here we go. Group C. The other thing about this Group C as well, you'd think this Ireland-Lebanon game decides who else goes through because as good as the Jamaicans have been, getting their first points.
They got their first try against New Zealand. I can cover off some stalling. So I think the scenes for them actually getting that try very late from a loose ball, as you will, popped up. They got it, scored a try. And the scenes, they looked like they'd actually won the World Cup after getting their try. But, a tier 1 nation as well, New Zealand, who's probably going to play in the final. It was great
the way the tournament's set up, if Australia and New Zealand both finish first, they have to play each other in the semis. Which is big.
Going deep, let's put it that way.
Indeed.
To get a try, I think they were very elated and happy with all that.
Mm-hmm. Monks, any news on what's Adam doing?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a weird way that I've explained it. Where are we?
It was a weird send off.
I'm sure we'll explain it better.
Oh, 100%. I'll just read it. So Lebanon may only play 3 more games in the tournament, which means Dewey will be missing almost half of their campaign. So I don't know how many games that means.
1.5 if my maths is any good.
yeah.
I don't know if that includes.
So obviously he's not playing this game.
Was it ref abuse?
He's not playing against
Ireland
or Jamaica.
So he's scrapped from the group stages.
Looks like he's scrapped from the group stages.
Wow, so that's big for Lebanon moving forward.
What was the case? What did he do? Was it ref abuse, like I said? Or did I make that?
It was ref abuse.
Okay, cool.
I think it looked like it was just swearing. I don't.
Yeah, I think
you can get sent for swearing.
I think he said something like, that you've been making shit calls, make a good one, or something like that. That's why he sent him off.
So eloquently.
Maybe it was the intent behind it.
You know what can fuck off? I love this League Live app during the year. The World Cup. Look, it doesn't even have this game. Doesn't even have the New Zealand Jamaica game.
Anyway.
Wow.
Well, New Zealand are going through, and it's going to come down to this Ireland-Lebanon game. You'd think Lebanon without Adam Doing.
Yeah. What's happening in Group D?
Group D's been the tightest group. Tonga and PG probably the closest game, best for the neutral viewer so far. Tonga coming away with the Bickies 24-18. Really highlighted 18-year-old Isaac Toa, who was playing in the halves for the Tongans. Very impressive, especially for an 18-year-old. He'll be pushing to get a starting spot at the Dolphins next year. And then the other sort of story out of this one was Papua's and lead Rhinos goal kicker, second rower, Reece Martin. He's got 41 consecutive goals without missing. That's equaled the record. So if he makes his next one, I think that's the longest goal streak ever. Cook Islands, 18, Wales, 12. Don't imagine either of these teams get out of the group. Cook Island kit looks like my social cricket team, Yams kit. Up the Yams. Not playing this year.
Yeah, it'll be Tonga and PG, I think.
I think so too. But World Cup's out there. Good to see a few minnow nations, getting their first points, their first tries, etc., etc. I think the teams that go through are pretty well set. It's probably Group C. The second team, will it be Ireland or Lebanon that goes through, is probably the biggest question.
Yeah, I agree.
A bit of NRL news, bit of coaching, musical chairs even. Musical trees, that's a new one.
Yeah.
Sit on the tree.
That's it. Actually, this one probably could have been a mop of the week as well. Just the
Manly
whole debacle.
shit show.
Absolutely.
The lead up to this podcast and Manly Sea Eagles. That's parody for biggest shit shows in Australia at the moment. Des Hasler is gone. We spoke about all the sort of rumours and rest of it, and I said, no way Des Hasler leaves this team on his own terms. Apparently not.
Yeah, and I think from that podcast that following week, you all got kicked off with the CEO coming out and saying, we're an excellent team, we're on the way up. What we lack is coaching. Essentially, shots fired, etc. Which I think kind of said that, the writing was all war, that was the end. And then Hasler, I think they're back and forth in the front office. Hasler says, yeah, sure, whatever, I'm done. I'm not going to pull it up with this shit. I think Trent Barrett and Tuvey are just like, yes, we also did the exact same thing. So I think anyone that's a Manly fan at the moment knows the issues aren't with the coaching or the team. It's probably more the front office and what's happening in the back there.
100%.
So Hasler gone. I think they've been sold a little bit on Simon coming back.
Seabold.
Yeah, Seabold.
Not the butterfly swimmer, Seabomb.
No, I was going with Seabombs as well.
C-bomb.
Oh, yes.
B-O-M-B. Okay, I'm with that.
Yeah. So Seabold probably selling them on like his resume, and he's pulled the wool over them maybe a little bit here because they've made the change, and that's likely going to be the new head coach. Shane Flanagan, that is assistant. Most likely going to be the assistant, which would be good for anyone that watches any of the Fox League. He'll be off commentary.
Rich from us, perhaps.
True. It sounds like he signed on as assistant coach, whereas Seabold hasn't actually signed on yet as the head coach, but it looks like it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's essentially close to being announced.
Yeah, but I think the main thing is the Trebojevic brothers, Tom especially, talking to my management, wouldn't surprise me if he's got a clause in his contract that it's tied to the head coach, that if the head coach goes, that I can then potentially get out of my contract. And then Wayne Bennett, I don't think they've got any chance with their coaching at the moment, the Dragons.
Tom.
I think Wayne Bennett was the one that said, "Oh yeah, we'd be happy to take Tom," kind of thing. It was like, "Hey, if you want out, we're here. We'll pay you whatever you want." So
I think even DCE's a bit of a fanboy of Hasler as well. So it'd be funny if front office has gotten rid of Hasler just to try and bring back some stability within the team and the playing groups. Just
walk out.
Nah.
Yeah. And of course, I brought everything up from Pride Round as well. And I think Josh Smith-Schuster was talking. Did I get that back to front?
Josh Schuster. I think you're thinking of Juju Smith-Schuster.
So Josh Schuster. He did some, because he was one of the Pride 7.
Correct, yeah. He spoke with Danny Weidler.
Yes, he did some media kind of show what their thoughts and their opinions in the back and forth. Because I think there's been leaked text as well about, the front office knew for quite a while that this was potentially going to happen as well. Mm-hmm. They still went ahead with it. They kind of didn't care and they pushed the agenda and didn't listen to the playing group. And if they had, they might have had a better conversation than the shit show that it was that week. Women in League week as well, that it ended up being. So, mainly blowing themselves up, shooting themselves in the foot as you will, and we'll have a new head coach. And I don't think the Trebojevic brothers will go anywhere, but we also were saying Hasler's not going anywhere, and that happened. Yep. And they've got a good reason to get out of Manly now, and if it's in their contracts, they might have reasons, a potential out there. But either way, it's shit show.
Can't wait to see the Trebojevic brothers in a big red V.
All the young talent wants out of the Dragons
never.
Moment, so. I think actually for some Dragon chat, I think the reason no one showed up to that, the Dragons
awards night, because they were all overseas.
Not that, but it was actually protest. They were protesting with the coaching stuff. So there's actually rumours coming out with some of the playing group after Ben Hunt got stuck into them all. That hey, you should have been there. You guys need there. That a lot of them actually didn't show up because they were protesting with where the club is at the moment.
And a few ex-Dragons, Matt Cooper, pretty vocal on Twitter, saying it was a disgrace and et cetera, et cetera. I think that's all noise, mate. There's nothing wrong going on in Kogarah and Wollongong. Can't wait to see the Trebojevic brothers playing for the Dragons next year. Just quickly back to Des Hasler. The term scapegoat doesn't get thrown around that often. I'm going to throw it out here.
Oh, big time.
Scapegoat?
Oh, definitely. They threw him in
DCE.
DCE.
To the wolves.
Yeah, exactly. That whole
under the bus.
That media press conference was the line in the sand that probably said it's all going to end up very badly. So.
Feel for Des here. Feel for Des. But fuck, put your feet up. Don't worry about the stress that is coaching an NRL team this year.
Longer.
Exactly. I'd be on a beach and having a beer, and just it's only going to get worse. You feel at Manly in this off season.
I agree.
Do you reckon Desler?
Desler.
Wow.
That's good.
Yeah,
Desler.
there you go.
Desler.
Yeah, Desler.
Desler.
Do you reckon he just takes a year off? And
there's no one. There's no.
He might be in line with his Dragons job next year.
Maybe. All right, we'll take a package deal. Sorry, Hook. we'll take the Desler and 3 turbos.
That's you never know though. You could see if front offices if that deal gets put on the table. Like
I don't think we've got the cap room. Just quietly.
Yeah.
Anyways,
they get rid of some of these young fellas that don't want to play there anymore.
Yeah, that aren't any big money. That's it for NRL.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right, let's do a sound bite. We're gonna try this one. I try to do this often with my mouth, and it sounds like a foghorn. So let's try this one.
It's not that far off.
Let's talk some AFL. Not bad, boys. This will be a quick segment, but we're talking trades.
Yeah, the big story. There was a trade window, heaps of trades.
Yeah.
It's been a week and a half, I think, since that ended. But we wanted to focus on, I guess, 3 of the big ones, the mega deal, as it will, and, of course, the potential new St Kilda coach, because that happened very quickly. The coach was out the door, and then they're already looking at their replacement within 2 weeks. So, do you want to start with the mega deal?
JHF, Jason Horn-Francis. There's been rumours pretty much throughout the back end of the season that he didn't want to be at North Melbourne.
Wanted to go home.
He wanted to go home, and he will be going home. Jason Horne-Francis will be a Port Adelaide Power player next year. Yep. That's a good tongue twister. Port Adelaide Power player.
Shows how much he wanted to play with Port Adelaide, signing a 6-year deal the day after. So they've locked him in there for quite a while. And they get Rioli as well, I believe, in this deal.
Yeah, Whitley Rioli, I think, is going to Port. Yep. Their engine room is going to be pretty stacked, like if not already, with last year's Brownlow medalist Ollie Wines and Travis Goodbloke. You throw in, pretty much a generational talent.
They had a bad year this year. They had a down year. They started really poorly.
It was just the start.
Yeah,
you can't go.
They couldn't recover.
That's speaking volumes to my fantasy team. You can't go 0-5, 0-6, and go on to bother anyone in September. I suppose it's not really working for the NFL analogy anymore.
Funnest footy, but yes.
Yeah. Do you want me to try to go through the ins and outs of this mega deal? Essentially, a lot of picks thrown into it.
So I think the main thing, there's 4 teams involved. I think the big concern is Norths have turned 2 first picks into a second and third.
Yes.
So number 2 and number 3 in the upcoming draft. So
it all comes down to hindsight. It's all going to come down to 5 years' time, and you're looking back, and does Jason Horne-Francis live up to the hype and the expectation and his talent and his skill set, or does whoever North picks up with this 2 and 3 pick, does both of them lead to more success than say JHF does at Port Adelaide?
I think as well, potentially it either ends up being like a 3rd or 4th or 4th and 5th, depending on the father-sons that go.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, father-son.
There's one going to the
Will
Lions.
Ashcroft will go to the Lions. So then your 2nd and 3rd becomes the 3rd and the 4th.
I feel like Norths have probably lost out in all of this.
It seems it. It
seems it. You never know though that 2nd and 3rd might end up turning into a. Two all-timers, Hall of Fames, the next Dusty, whatever. It could happen.
It's all speculation, isn't it?
Exactly. It's all speculation. But in the deal on paper, from the day it happened to where it is now, it looks like they've lost out. That's the way I feel. I think Port have probably done the best out of the lot, picking up 2 good players in here, and fuck them picks and get rid of all those picks. But
in the way that they've lost so far is not so much future speculation, anything could happen with these draft picks. It's the look of the club.
Yeah, exactly.
A 19-year-old has the shits after being there for 12 months.
Yep.
It speaks volumes to, I think, where that club's at. Former players as well.
How many games they win? 2?
3? 3 maybe. Marks, can you bring that up? Former players as well, getting on their social media when the deal was announced and putting fire emojis and the rest of it. So that speaks to how Jason was perceived amongst the playing group.
I think they're happy that they got stuff in return, essentially. It's like they didn't...
But, yeah, I suppose. But if you've played 22 games of Aussie Rules footy with someone and you're out there and you're meant to put your body on the line for someone, and then the day they're at the door, you think that's fire, I think that speaks a lot to how Jason was perceived at the club and maybe his thoughts around the club.
Yeah, I think definitely some of the veterans showing that kind of as well as whatever reason. His heart wasn't in it. He didn't want to be at North.
It's pretty apparent from about halfway through the year, wasn't it?
I think there's been some chat as well about the whole draft system following this as, you're picking one. Are you really picking one? Are you getting a guy that wants to play for your club kind of thing? I guess that happens also, North do due diligence. They do... You do all the recruiting, you talk to these guys. Yes, he might be the most talented guy, but I think if you've got red flags going into that, you maybe look elsewhere.
I think,
but it's... Or is that more on the ruse than on the draft?
I'm saying it's more on the ruse, in how they spend their capital versus picking one.
Even at the draft as a whole, I think the homesick factor has to play into things as well. We saw Adam Chera being very unhappy at Fremantle because he wanted to be in Melbourne, and Carlton go, no worries, come home, you can play for the Blues. I think, teams have to kind of consider that if you're a Melbourne team and you're picking someone from South Australia or Western Australia and vice versa. I think you probably have to consider that with your draft picks.
The other thing, because if I think drafts and make a comparison, the guys that do get drafted in the AFL are a lot younger. You're picking
18.
You're picking 18-year-olds.
What the fuck do you know when you're 18? I'm 32. Exactly. I don't know shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is so young. It's so much pressure to have on an 18-year-old to move away from home. Yes, it's interstate, but from Adelaide's not Melbourne. Melbourne's not Adelaide, and Perth's not Melbourne. And,
you've only just become drinking age, and you're kind of learning all your shit and how to fit into society. So,
I like how drinking age that benchmark of learning what you're doing in life.
You've only just been allowed to vote.
True. Well, that as well.
Two different ages in America.
True.
Yes. Well, you could. You can buy a gun at that age, but
we don't need to go down that. We don't need to go down
but
that.
I think the comparison we're trying to make is, in the NFL, you've gone through the college system, you're coming out as a 20,
21.
Yeah,
exactly.
You're in your early 20s.
So those few years do make a difference.
Yes.
I suppose to that, and also probably a little bit
to finish my college point as well, you playing in college, you are also playing away from home in that period too. So you kind of already preparing yourself for a pro game then compared to what theirs is. James, your point?
Yeah, so to that, the whole draft system, so it probably speaks a little bit more to my ignorance than anything else, but is a draft system for that AFL does it have as much of an impact as most other sports? Like when you talk about these first rounders draft picks, like in the NFL and stuff, they're players who have immediate impact on the field. In the AFL,
core foundational players.
In the AFL, do they sort of get lost in the mix? In the way the game's played,
we're obviously big fans of American sports, so I'm gonna make analogies with two big draft systems that we see in America. I would say your these high end first round picks in the AFL. There's only 2 rounds. It's maybe not like a high end NFL pick, especially at a skill position. You're expected to have immediate impact. If you pick a first round wide receiver, you're expected to have immediate impact.
Fed a lot, yeah.
Then the NBA, you're depending on the team situation, but if your team is looking okay and you're a first round draft pick, it's developmental. It's developmental. Unless you're sort of a top 5 pick going to a shit franchise, you're not really expected to have immediate impact. I would say the AFL splits the middle.
Yeah.
It splits the middle between, say, the NFL and the NBA, where if you're an 18, 19-year-old kid, the AFL is a sport where we've seen 18, 19-year-olds be pretty good. A Nick Dacos comes to mind. A Sam Walsh a few years ago comes to mind. It is a sport because of the cardio intensive kind of aspect of it. You don't really have to grow into your body that much. If your skills and your cardio are up to scratch, you can have close to an immediate impact. It's not quite like the NFL, like a wide receiver, you might be expected to have 1,000 yards in your first year. But the expectation is probably by year 2 or year 3, la Sam Walsh, you're one of our best players.
Exactly. I think it potentially also the team. So
exactly.
If you're picking your top 5 pick, you're probably playing on one of the worst teams in the league. So they probably want to get some value out of you and potentially return as soon as possible. Hence, JHF, he's played 22 games after being drafted last year. So
he got 17 with his injuries.
Yeah, 17 with his injuries. So he's that there is that expectation. At least you're going to get in there and play, especially the higher. I think the equivalent of the AFL in the NBA comparison is you got those second rounders, which are more role guys, and they may fit in there, and you hope maybe get a surprise packet. But generally, your first is where you're spending all. You're trying to get a dude that's going to be a core piece going forward.
And there's literally no expectation on those second rounders in the NBA. Some of them.
And same for the AFL.
Play a year and then that's it. And same thing with the AFL.
Because I know the comparison for me is that you've got 12 the Berry brothers, like Jared went late first and his brother TJ went in a second. And the expectation was higher for him and McLaughlin coming in there as the first rounders that year. We're a crap club at the time. You're going to come in and be a core part of our core foundation of youth to change and move this team around. Whereas 2 years later, 3 years later, I think when TJ came through, it was just like, you're more a role player, come in and see what you can do for us. So there's a different expectation there on the guys coming in.
Let's talk the Brodie Grundy move. So Luke Jackson is going west. That that was pretty well expected. A lot of people thought that Luke Jackson would go back to Perth. I didn't see Brodie Grundy coming to Melbourne by any means.
We've got the best ruck in the game. Let's go get the second one.
Arguably, Sean Darcy might have something to say about it.
But health-wise and career, like going back. Grundy and Gawn have been in that conversation.
1A and 1B.
Yeah, exactly, for a long time.
So the tandem is going to be crazy now.
I don't know how it works, but...
one of them's going to have to spend a lot of time forward.
Yeah.
What's
the age difference in them as well? I assume Gawn is older.
But not much.
Yeah.
That beard is deceiving.
I know. So I can't think of it's a transition thing that they think Gawn's going to retire in a couple of years and Grundy's going to take over.
I don't know if Max Gawn's 30.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think that's...
He's 30.
Yeah.
He's 30? Okay.
Yeah, 30 December 1991.
And Grundy's 28, I think.
Grundy's 28.
Yeah. So there's not a transition thing there. So to me, it's embarrassment of riches. So I don't know how they're going to get both on the field at the same time.
And salary cap wise, do they have
with everyone else?
Do they have to take?
Are they paying them in sombreros?
Someone's been talking to the Roosters. Yeah.
Blue and red, dude. Blue and red. I can see the similarities. Yeah, it's going to be weird how they use them. You'd think Grundy has to spend a bit of time forward as well. The thing with Melbourne is don't have a big name key forward either. Like Bailey Fritsch is, I think, top their goal scoring the last few years.
Is it Grundy though? Like a forward like that? Like
I think he's booted 20 or 30 goals. Like they might be able to use him as a reasonable key forward. I think they split time in the ruck and then both of them go forward.
But is that a waste though? Like, do you really?
I don't know.
Is weird. Grundy's that dude?
We've never. Well, it's unprecedented. We've never seen a team that has two of the best 3 or 5 rucks in the game being on the same team. How it works from a salary cap point of view, I've got no fucking idea. I don't want to speculate. I don't want to speculate. I think it's a good get for Melbourne, maybe if they can use him right, but it's definitely a head scratcher, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Embarrassment of riches. That's the way I think of it.
What do you got down there, Monks? Anything of note?
No, not.
I think Brodie as well. He kind of saw himself as a lifelong Pie. I think he made a pretty sentimental post on his Instagram saying, that's the way he wanted his career to play out.
Yeah, I think that was it the DeGoey deal? I think was the writing on the wall. They had to. So there's a salary cap problem. Like they couldn't pay all their guys, so they were. I think they were more keen on Grundy, but then they saw. If we keep DeGoey, we can get that, and then there looks like there's a potential out for us there of Grundy, who had missed most of the year anyway, to go to the D's there. So, they've made that's the choice they've gone. That's the direction they've taken the club.
It's pretty wild. Mm-hmm. Didn't see it happening. I didn't see this happening either. Tom Mitchell will be a Pie, and then we talk about salary cap. Maybe that's a like for like kind of money.
Yep.
Is Brodie Grundy for Tom Mitchell? Joins his third AFL club after obviously being pretty good as a Sydney Swan. Hawthorn lose their best player. They also lost Jager O'Meara. We're not going to talk so much about that deal, but I think Hawthorn's going to be on the back foot this year. And you throw Tom Mitchell into a team that was 1 point off playing a grand final this year. I think the Pies are going to be pretty fucking good this year.
Yes.
Did not see this happening. No,
it's a great get for them.
Maybe it makes sense. Well, Pendlebury's maybe in his last year.
Yeah.
Maybe this is going to be a little bit of a passing of the torch. Steel side bottom's pretty old as well. So maybe that's the thinking. It's a great get for Collingwood fans.
Yeah, and it could go back to a reason why they were happy to move Grundy on, because they moving the chess pieces. They knew what they had cap wise and to get it in there and to keep this team up there to try and push for a potential flag after the great run they had in the mid to end of the season. It's a good deal.
And a bit of coaching news.
Yeah, St Kilda making moves.
Ross Lyon going back to the club that sacked him.
Yes, it sounds like there's been lots of footage of him in and around the club. Nothing official on paper.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry. It's expected that Ross Lyon will be announced as the new St Kilda coach.
All but confirmed. It sounds probably they're trying to work out the I's and T's, how to dot them and cross them on the contract to finish off to make that official. Because, I think that in the coming days, it will be made. But I've because it's a return for him.
Did take them to grand finals. Didn't win one, unfortunately, but did get them there.
Yeah. So
Ross Lyon's too good a coach to not be coaching an AFL team, I feel like.
Yes.
So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I'm sure the boys will get around Ross Lyon as well. You know, a St Kilda legend in getting that team to a couple of grand finals. Again, we are sort of counting our chickens before they hatch, but it seems imminent that it will be announced.
Anything, Jimmy?
Has it been announced? Any breaking news?
No breaking news just yet. It seems like it's very close to a done deal.
Yeah.
Very, very close.
Yeah, probably length, money, and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
How many Mercedes I'm getting?
Paper bags.
Yeah, how close is my car park to the building? All that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway.
In summation, one of the craziest trade deals or trade periods, I should say, that we've seen.
Does the AFL have a traditional free agency? Like they have guys that...
Yeah, it's sort of in the last 4 to 5 years, it's become more prominent. The AFL, out of any kind of big sports code down under, teams or players tended to be quite loyal. But now, obviously, you know, the chess piece is moving and the business of sport, you know, comes into it a little bit more. They don't move quite as much as NRL players seem to, but there might be a future, whether it be in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, that we see down the line where players move as freely in the AFL as they do, say, in the National Rugby League.
Yeah, true. Well, if anything, the league might go the other way, and because they're back to talking about transfer windows and how we work it out. So it isn't the shit show where week 3 you're like, oh, I'll sign somewhere else for.
I hate that in rugby league. If you've got to play 20 or 15 or 10 games of maybe the most violent sport known to man. With a bloke that's not going to be there next year, I think that plays into your psyche, and it has to play into the player's psyche. We saw it with Appy Coruscant, and great, I've won a ring, and now I'm going to the West Tigers. Like, do you know what I mean? Like that, I hate that in the NRL. I'm all for players moving, but when it's sort of announced, like you say, in week 3 or week 4 of that season, I'm not the biggest fan of it. So I'd hate to go like that. I don't mind it all happening, within a few days, this being this crazy sort of trade period, and then it gives us something to talk about after the season finishes. And it was a lackluster grand final, let's be honest, for neutral,
both codes,
for the neutral viewer, yes, in both codes. Then it gives you that sort of trade window, like say an EPL, like say an NBA, where you
all
see
major
it all happening.
sports have some sort of, that's how they keep the sport going. Like in the off season, exactly. That's how you work out. Like, how do you keep interest in your sport when it ends? He said you then start talking about next year and adding new talent and the like.
That's how you get a few nuffies, sitting in a basement talking about it. And I don't hate it. I'd much prefer it all happen within 2 weeks after the season's finished than the announcements to happen all through the year like we see in the rugby league.
Yep.
All right, boys. Sound about time.
Oh, geez, again.
Yep.
He broke his ankles.
That's Lamar Jackson breaking ankles. Not bad. It's not bad.
It's all right.
I'm going to let you boys run through the Saints and Cardinals game review, kind of.
No, we're talking stories. Well,
and then,
I guess we'll mention the game.
And then we're going to go through tonight's games, tomorrow morning's games for our time. In a sec. But I need to go to the little boys' room.
Yeah, go. So I get the big stories. If we talk about Cardinals to start with, they were hit with the Brown potential season-ending injury, which I think on second opinion they think month. So we'll have to see what that looks like. Because of that, they then traded for Robbie Anderson from the Panthers, and then also they got Nuke Hopkins back, who then got 14 targets, I believe, in this game for 10 receptions. So the question for them is, does this help Kyler, or is Kingsbury still at risk there? And we saw a bit of Kyler get stuck into
There's a bit of
clear
a on the sideline.
Having some words, a bit of fire there, and Hop coming across to say, "Settle down, young man." Like we're still going. I just don't know with this Cards team because they won this game. I think they're 3-4 though.
3-4.
where they're kind of fitting. There's some chat about does Cliff need to give up his play calling? Is he the right one to be calling the plays here? And I think that was kind of what Colin Murray was getting stuck into him about, like, call the right plays for the situations and stuff, etc. The D helped him out in this to get this win in this game. But what's your thoughts on the Cards? Where do you see them going? Where do you think this team can go to, considering last year they were meant to be, one of the favourites for Super Bowl with all the pieces, and they've kind of fallen apart since then.
That's it. I don't know. They seem to be a bit of an enigma. Like, on paper, they seem like they should be a really good team. They should be, really great. Like, I know at the running back position, they've probably got a few injuries lingering around at the moment. That probably means that they probably can't play the game that they want to play.
Benjamin was good for him, and I forgot the other running back. He stole some touchdowns as well in this one. I think probably a lot of it relies on Murray. We joke about the Call of Duty, and it's good he played on Thursday night because Call of Duty came out that evening, so he could go home and spend all weekend playing Modern Warfare 2, as there's an ad on the TV for it right now. It's. I think some of it relies on him in the execution, but maybe some of the play calling as well. We'll talk about Denver's issue. It's kind of very similar with the quarterback and play calling head coach maybe being what's letting the team down a little bit at the moment. I think they're taking a step back. I just don't think they're the team they were a year ago, and there's other teams have gotten better, unfortunately for them.
Yeah, that's it.
They've kind of fallen into the middle of the pack.
It is weird. Yeah, that's it. They're sort of like they've had potential. They had a high ceiling, and they never really eventuated. Yeah. We'll talk about when we get to the Panthers, but like Matt Rule got fired. Is that writing the wall for Cliff coming from, again, that college system? Yeah,
I don't think his job's at risk. I think maybe he might hand off the play calling depending on what happens. Because I think that's where the big concern is at the moment, that maybe his system on the way to calling isn't working. So maybe they'll give someone else a go. But there's probably not a lot of action. They don't just have a ready-made play caller just sitting there on the sideline ready to jump in. So not a little great outlook, I think, there for the Cards. Did of course get the win in this game. Saints on the other side, not a lot of big stories coming out of Saints land at the moment. They're a little bit banged up with Thomas out again. Winston was an emergency in this one.
Winston should be good to go for next week.
I think Dalton did throw 3 picks in this, so I think
two pick sixes as well.
2 pick sixes as well, and in under a minute, unfortunately for him, which was a bit of a big difference in this game because they were ahead up to that point. Taysom Hill, kind of a bit of a thing. They show some stats that if he touches a ball in a drive, they score more points than they don't, than if he doesn't. So
paying him a lot of money as well. Surely you'd
that's
think
because he plays like 5 different positions.
He ran the ball in this. He caught a reception and he did throw the ball as well, and scored a touchdown. So jack of all trades. But not a lot of news coming out of Saints lands these days. Falcons and Bengals. As to talk about the Falcons, the disappearance of Kyle Pitts and the destruction of several people's fantasy teams.
Drake London, you can throw into that mix as well.
I think of the receiving options, he's been the best.
But the last few weeks, quiet compared to how he was early on.
I think
having said that, they're winning games.
They're winning games, and it's potentially a QB issue because I think they're only trying like 15 to 20 passes a game as well. So the
Chicago Bears now have more pass attempts than the Atlanta Falcons.
There you go. So I think that might be a product of actually the offensive system that's the issue more than Kyle Pitts, losing his talent. I just think it's just the way
he hasn't lost his talent.
I think it's just the way he's being used.
Utilised, yeah.
Do I see him getting traded? No, I don't think so.
No,
I don't think they'll throw the towel in there.
I think it's just going to be frustrating for fantasy owners moving forward.
Yeah, but they're still winning games. They're playing good enough defense. I don't think there's much more they could do there. It is what it is for this year. Yep. See what they do with Mariota and whether they potentially try to get their hat into the ring for Young or Shroud in the draft.
That's it.
Do you think they give a fuck either, considering they're joint leaders in the NFC South?
Probably not.
No.
Do what's winning games for at the moment.
That's it. So they've completed 84 of 137 attempts in passing. Their opponent's stats are 167 off 242. So
Double. I think they are confirmed the most run-heavy team in the NFL.
And going very heavy committee as well. They don't really have a standout there with Patterson kind of coming back and forward with injuries.
Yep.
Bengals, on the other hand, we talk about them. I think their big issue at the moment is they've been struggling to protect Burrow. They've got all the weapons there. They're a 500 team. Where do we think they could go to? I think the big thing for them is the North is very open.
I think it is open. I think them and the Ravens will play playoff football.
Yeah,
I think it's a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover. I think talent-wise, they'll be fine. They do need to protect Joe Money.
That's the big one.
Obviously brought in Leo Collins and spent big on the offensive line side of things, and it hasn't really come to fruition.
I think
just
defensively they haven't been as good as they were last year. Their defense was sneaky good last year. Like a lot of guys, a lot of no-name guys, a lot of guys that you kind of really weren't well known around the league, but they did enough to keep them in games, and Burrow did enough to put on big points, and they just haven't recaptured that mojo yet. But still early in the season, they've got a long way to go to get to that point. But I think that's a concern.
I think they win pretty handily tomorrow.
Yeah, I think they should get past the Falcons.
So on the Bengals, they are tied third, I guess second most in sacks.
That's allowed.
Yeah, 22.
Who's won?
One on 23 is the Commanders and the Bears.
Yeah, Wentz been eating a few.
Yeah, and then you got Bengals and Rams.
Yes. We'll get to that in a minute. Lions, Cowboys. We start with the Cowboys. Return of Dak. Some concern about Cooper Rush being undefeated as a starter, but nope.
If you can hear us, we'll be back shortly.
It says it's capturing the network. It's trying to send stuff. Get it back up. That's back up there. It's still dropping frames. If I get this. Why is it testing upload? Don't test that. Sorry for the brief drop. It's very, very slow at the moment.
I can see that we are still live.
We are
For anyone
Is
who's
it still
listening.
playing?
Looks like it's still playing.
Do you want to press pause and we'll come back?
No, I think it might have settled. Still, the numbers are there. It's not dropping frames anymore. Anyway, James, the internet for you. Did have a power outage this morning, so
Yeah.
I think we've got to sort that shit out.
at Actu probably for that one. It's coming back.
Connected.
It's like it dropped.
All right, we're fucking back, baby. Cowboys get the job done at home against the Lions. Lions are 1-4. We spoke a couple of weeks ago. They were the highest scoring team in the NFL. I think the Bills and Chiefs have overtaken that. They need to be able to stop other teams from scoring. This Dallas team at home, I don't think they'll be able to do that. I think Dallas wins.
Yeah. I think Lions, though they're 1-4, have looked better offensively. I think their defense, like you were saying, big issue. I don't think they're the worst team in football.
Oh, God, no.
Though their record reflects that. I think they're equal last.
Yeah. With a few teams.
With a few teams. But I think I might say the Jerry Jones story because he did get the accusation a day after Snyder's threat, but we'll cover Snyder's threat when we get to the Commanders in a minute. But yeah, I think Cowboys will be too good for Lions. Colts, Titans.
Just quickly, Lions fans, fantasy owners, DeAndre Swift.
Should be good to go.
You own him in our fantasy league. Should be back.
Should be back after the bye week. That was all the chat. Questionable. They had limited practice all week, but should be okay. Don't know how many touches he'll get, though. You might get
Maybe a 50-50 split with Jamal.
Yeah. You might take him a little bit easier, but you never know. That week they gave him 20% snaps. He still scored like 17 fantasy points because he's got the receptions and scored a touchdown. He's a talent. There's all there is with Swift. You're hoping he gets injured early in the year and then is good for the back end of the season, which has happened. Hopefully he'll be right for going forward. Colts, Titans. Colts, is Matty Ice starting to warm up at the Colts? He, I think, was the top fantasy scorer last week.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Been a bit underwhelming to start the season. but maybe that's because, missing Jonathan Taylor a little bit. I don't know. I just don't think the Colts are good enough.
I'll go a step further. He hasn't been underwhelming. I think he's been bad.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find. I'll keep talking. I'll find some Matt Ryan stats for you.
But they go up against the Titans, though. Someone that maybe been a bit under is Derek Henry.
Yeah. I've got him.
He's got
been quiet.
400 yards through 6 games, which I think is probably unders for him. His average being about 100. But is that a Henry problem, or is that more a reflection of where the Titans are at the moment?
I've got him in the other league that I play in, and yes, has been unders. It's a lofty bar. It's a high bar that he sets for himself, and it's been going in the right direction. If you look at his game log, it's mostly the first few games of the year where he just wasn't getting yards and scoring
Coming back
touchdowns.
from injury as well.
Exactly, but he's still getting volume.
Yeah, he's getting the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it potentially could be an issue with their receiving corps. They lost Burks. He's on injured reserve. Like if they've got no one to throw to, then you're putting 10 men in the box and one deep, and that's it. You're trying to stop Henry. That's where it is. And I don't think Tannehill's had a great year to start so far either. So both these teams middle of the pack.
Statistically, Matt Ryan hasn't been too bad.
Yeah, I was trying to get that up on my phone. What have you got for us?
Completion percentage is 67.
Touchdowns, intercepts.
Touchdown intercepts. So he's got, where are we? So yards is second on the list for yards.
Yeah,
1,700. 8 touchdowns, which is probably what's killing him. 7 interceptions.
So that ratio probably not the
That's
best,
not
but
great.
also not that. Still more TDs than picks.
Yeah.
What do we think tomorrow? Hard. It's the NFL has been that hard to pick this year. Regardless.
I think I went Colts in this. Maybe.
I think the Titans get done, and Derrick Henry gets 58 fantasy points, hopefully.
Well, I picked up Matty Ice because I know the Titans have the worst secondary in the NFL at the moment. Well, they've given up the most pass yards so far through the year.
Interesting.
So we'll see. Maybe high scoring. Who knows?
Packers, Commanders?
Commanders. Let's start with Commanders and what's the bit of a shit show over there.
Dan Snyder.
Dan Snyder. Snyder's threats, as you will. Not Snyder's cut, but Snyder's threats. It came out during the week that he's had private investigators going around and digging up dirt on other owners.
He's a little snitch.
Yeah, and it's not all the owners, but I guess if you got 6 different owners, you start to get the risk there. The whole point is, don't try to force me to sell this team, which I think it wasn't. Oh, who the fuck said that? It wasn't Jerry Jones. It was. Fuck, I can't remember. One of the other owners came out and said, "Oh no, it was Colts owner Jim
Ursay,
yes." He came out and said, "Yeah, I think there's enough evidence there that Washington potentially should be sold." So then the next day, Snyder made these threats. The following day, Jerry Jones gets an accusation of sexual assault, I believe, on him. So,
heavy.
Yeah, whether that was, first shot fired, some of the rumours there. But, yeah, the billionaire owners getting stuck into each other. And Snyder, of course, won't. He doesn't want to sell that team at all. He loves that. He loves owning that club. He loves his money maker. And, yeah, he sounds like he's got plenty of extra ammunition, so we'll have to see what happens because they did have the owners meeting during the week. I think Jones, I can't remember, someone wanted to pay Goodell more, and then Snyder's also got dirt on Goodell supposedly. Apparently. So there,
I mean, a lot of rich old dudes.
Yes.
A few of them been to Harvey Weinstein Island.
Yes.
Allegedly.
That's
a joke. That's a joke.
Or Epstein's Island, maybe.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if Harvey Weinstein had an island.
Maybe. But either way, it's not great. And then the on-field product, not so great either.
No.
Wentz is out with the injury. Heineken is back.
Heineken.
Yes,
Heineken.
The beer joke says. What does this mean for the Commanders? Great question. Wentz has kind of been a bit unders there. Maybe Terry McLaurin owners will be happy because they had a bit of a good connection there. But I just don't think the team's very good. Robinson coming back after getting shot potentially could end up winning comeback player of the year if he keeps that role. Stole the starting job already from Gibson.
What about him coming out to 50 Cent?
Oh, they're beautiful.
Many men. Yeah, many men wish death upon me. It's pretty good.
Yeah, so
Much cooler than me singing that song.
yeah. So the Commanders are a bad football team at the moment. Pack on the other hand,
Packers have been bad off late.
yeah, then
3-3.
no huge stories coming out of Packland. I think the biggest issues is they're a bit banged up at the wide receiver position,
And traded their fucking, best receiver that they'll ever have in their franchise history away.
Yeah. To the Raiders, some chat they might be looking at Chase Claypool in a potential trade there. DJ Moore still trying to get his trade happening. So
Everyone trying to evacuate the Panthers.
So they're in the hunt, I think, for some wide receiver help with Randall Cobb. I think it ended up being a season-ending injury.
Yeah, it's long.
The rookie Watson injured at the moment with the hamstring.
Romeo Dobbs, get on him.
Yeah, well, Tonyan, I think, was the benefit of it last week, getting bulk targets. Maybe a little bit of change in the guard there for Aaron Rodgers, and it hasn't really helped them. Try to get back to the NFC Championship game again.
You worried about Rodgers moving forward? No.
He's still Rodgers. He's still doing Rodgers things.
Hasn't turned the ball over a lot.
Yeah, he's putting the ball where it needs to be. I think there's problems elsewhere on the team at the moment.
Fair.
I think they haven't really gotten Jones involved in the game enough.
Yep, I'd agree with that.
And maybe the run game as a whole.
Which is weird because as a tandem running back duo, yin and yang, maybe the best running back duo in the NFL.
They're designed for it. So
Yeah.
It's, as a Packers fan, it's concerning when it's not that they just lost to the Jets, they lost convincingly to the Jets.
We'll get to the Jets though. I think they've
been playing overs.
Yeah,
that whole division's looking pretty good. Anyways, I think they get the job done tomorrow.
Packers should
hopefully steady the ship. Commanders in disarray, etc., etc.
Yeah. Speaking of disarray, the next
Carolina
game,
Panthers.
Let's talk about the
Panthers. Great segue.
Yeah. Fired the head coach. Robert Anderson was getting stuck in with the coaching staff on the sideline, got traded to the Cards as mentioned. CMC got traded to the 49ers during the week for a bucket load of mid-round picks.
2, 3, 4, 5, I believe.
Yes.
Thoughts on that?
I think it's good value for CMC, who's missed like 30 games in the last 3 years.
Yeah, he's missed like 60 to 70% of the games.
Yeah. Yes, and running back position, getting older, etc.
Spoke about Todd Gurley at the top of the show.
DJ Moore, of course, also rumoured. They're saying they won't trade him as a foundational piece, but then I think the right deal needs to come along. Burns and Horn also been in conversations for potential trades on the defensive front.
Imagine they lose to him.
Yeah, I think it's at the moment with Mayfield, Baker hurt. Sam Darnold's back from IR. I think Walker's actually going to start.
It's going to be PJ tomorrow.
I believe they're in full tank mode. Get all the picks. Get the first pick. They want to be in that young Shroud conversation. That's why I think they are. I think the Panthers will be the worst team in football going forward.
Bold prediction, but the way they're going, imploding.
Yeah, well, I think
it's full rebuild now, isn't it?
It's fire sale. That's essentially what it is.
Yeah, everything must go.
Yeah, and
again, collect as many picks as you can get. Rebuild.
Yeah, so I don't I don't love their chances going forward at all, and I think they'll be watching Alabama and Ohio State games with interest.
I'd say so. The Bucks haven't been that impressive.
Yeah, I think. And that was probably the big news for them during the week was, Tom Brady yelling at the O-line, those scenes. I didn't throw away my family for this shit. Was the joke, the meme.
The meme. That's not in verbatim.
Not official quote. The official quote, though, was there's no retirement in my future, which, maybe potentially throwing out some shots there as well in his press conference. Jimmy, you're the Tampa Bay man. What's happening in Tampa land
I don't know.
down there in Florida?
Yeah, it's probably just a culmination of frustrations.
Which I think was our concern with the whole potential divorce thing going in the background.
Yeah.
How long until it affects on-field product? And
Yeah.
maybe you're seeing some of that frustration a little bit.
That's it, potentially. I mean, I'm not, I guess, being an NFC South, probably not too concerned.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
That's
So,
We just talked about the shittest team.
Yeah. Probably being the shittest team in the NFL. Saints have been a bit underwhelming. The Falcons have been impressive, but
They should still win that division.
they should comfortably.
yeah. I mean, Tom Brady probably does demand that respect. Like, you can probably, like, him chewing
the
out
fucking
his
goat.
O-line, like, I mean, yeah, you could probably, you cop that. Yeah, I don't know. Definitely like to see him playing a little bit better. I don't really know what's not really clicking at the moment
Yeah.
for them.
Because
right.
their run
I know
game's
that-
been up and down, and Fortnite was been better in recent weeks. The receiving core's still good. They seem healthy there.
That's
Maybe they can't get protection. Maybe the defense just hasn't been to Super Bowl level par that it had been. But
Yeah, I always rag on the defense a little bit. Their secondary's always been a little bit leaky. I don't know.
I think a big touch up of the Carolina Panthers tomorrow
again, right the ship.
does them no harm. They go to 4-3, and I think they win the NFC South.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agree.
That's it.
Giants, Jags.
A few teams that have played a bit over, especially the New York Giants.
Giants, I think the stat is they've won more games this year than they have in the past 3, which is crazy to think.
Yeah, that is.
So,
5-1 Giants we're talking about.
yes, 5-1 Giants.
It's in the state of New York teams as well, if you include, they technically play out of jerseys, but Bills, Jets, Giants.
Yep,
Going pretty good.
definitely. And the head coach in this, how do you say his last name? DeBold, the Giants head coach is there. It's in the notes. How do you say it?
Oh,
Brian DeBold.
yeah, Dabol. Brian Dabol.
So he's the
Dabonon.
he was the the coach in that whole Belichick gate where he told the other Brian from Miami that he'd won the job when he hadn't actually before he'd even interviewed.
Oh, that dude.
Yeah, yes. So this is the guy that actually the actual Brian that won the role. Potentially in conversation for Coach of the Year. I think he's got to thank Saquon's calves to be in that conversation.
Calves or quads?
Both, because he's carrying that team at the moment, getting like 30 touches a game. With his running and receiving, because they've got a no-name receiving core. They've got they took Tony and Golladay's on Tony's pick and Golladay's on big money. Neither of them have scored a touchdown this year.
Less than their left tackle.
Yep, less than their left tackle. That is the stat. So, but Daniel Jones, I guess, is doing the job, not turning the ball over and not fumbling those handoffs to Saquon, and that's the winning formula for them.
Well, yeah, healthy Saquon. It's definitely good.
Isn't
for
it?
the side.
It makes a difference, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Huge difference.
It's so good to see as well, because that guy is so talented. You hate to see over the last couple of years after that ACL and the slow recovery and the rest of it. It's nice to see someone with the talent that he has performing the way he should.
Do I think they're the 5-1 team they are, or are they pretenders? I don't know. I just don't know that squad's good enough. But hey, they're well coached. Let's put it that way. They in these football games, they're winning football games. You can't write them off. Jags, on the other hand, also kind of in that rebuild, moving up, have done well in their picks. Lawrence, I guess, kind of starting to look like an NFL quarterback. I think Etienne's kind of taken over that running back room again, so they're going back and forth between him and Robinson. Their defense, maybe not sneaky good, and not quite to that level they were a couple of years ago, but they're definitely picking up. So this is probably going to be a good game of football with maybe in Jacksonville, maybe slight edge to the Jags, but either way, I think it's a good game of football.
Browns, Ravens. Ravens add Deshaun Jackson.
Yep, to their practice squad.
He'll get a spot, you think?
He could potentially come up because I think was it Bateman? One of the wide receivers dealing with an injury. Lamar though having an MVP level season.
If it wasn't for a guy called Josh Allen, probably the favourite.
Yeah. I think their biggest issue is probably defense. They've given up 3 really big leads, 20-point leads.
Yeah, 3 times, which is strange to be saying that about Baltimore, synonymous with good defense and secondary.
Yep.
Their secondary's been pus.
Yep. So I think that's the question. Can they be a playoff team with that kind of defense?
Yeah, a playoff team, yes. Can they go deep? No. The way they've been playing, no.
I think the same thing. Lamar will get them there. How far they'll go, big question marks. I just don't think that they can do too much there. And then on the Brown side, not a lot coming out of Cleveland news-wise. Watson caught another case in the last 2 weeks. Won't affect his suspension, supposedly.
So we're still expecting him back week 11?
Yes, and I believe this week he was allowed back at training after 6 weeks. So, but yeah, otherwise they're just trucking along as a so-so middle-tier team. Just keep hitting it off to Nick Chubb, I think, is the game plan.
How good's he been?
Yeah, he's been good. I think he's been top in the charts for running backs. So. And yeah, probably have to keep doing that until Watson comes back. But I think the Ravens should be too good for them and then get the win here.
AFC North's tight on paper as it stands. I still think the Ravens and Bengals are good, and I still think the Browns and Steelers aren't great.
One of them will get the wild card, I think, in that conference.
Agreed. Let's go to the later window, and your Denver Broncos take on the New York Jets. You've got the question there, Sean. What is wrong with Denver?
Yeah,
riddle me this.
It's a great question. Today, officially, Wilson will be out for this game, so Brett Rippon will come in. His last game, of course, against the New York Jets. Was that last year, I think? It must have been last year. Did win that game, so we'll have to see what that looks like. But that's the question, what's wrong with them? They've got the number one scoring D, only given up 6 touchdowns, but they have the worst offense in football, given up, only scored 5. And I think we were joking about ACLs before. They've almost had as many ACLs in the team
as touchdowns.
They
have half as many touchdowns as Russ has bathrooms.
Yes.
As per memes.
Yeah. So I think there's probably 2 things that's wrong with Denver. They've got the most amount of payroll and injury reserve at the moment, so that doesn't help you. One, rookie head coach, I think, is a big thing, and also kind of a rookie play caller too. Because he didn't call plays in the Packers. And I think the last time he called plays was back at Buffalo, and talked to some Bills fans. They say, this is what we saw, kind of terrible play calling. So I don't think it's all on Wilson. I think that whole uncertainty and confusion breeds more uncertainty and confusion. So I think that the head coach, as the leader, I guess, in the play calling there, is maybe not giving the level of confidence to Wilson, and then that's breeding the offense. So they're just stuck in the mud. I think that's the big concern. So whether that changes with Rippon in there and how they call the game, I think there's chat about offensive stuff. They haven't gone home in 2 weeks. They're living in the building kind of thing, trying to right this ship. They had 11 weeks between Thursday Night Football and playing against the Chargers, and nothing changed. So they're the most penalised team in the league.
Yep.
Which it all screams discipline, leadership, coaching. That it's all in the rookie head coach. So, and potentially, you'll get a good rookie head coach. Potentially, you end up where we are now, where we've had Vance Joseph and Fangio to go back through the list. You miss out. You miss out. You might get a Sean McVay. You might end up with where we're at now. Not to write a hack it off completely, though. New ownership. Yeah, they want to win games.
Yeah.
It has been a shit show. Let me put it this way: they're waiting an excellent defense. If Denver had a middle of the tier offense,
which you'd think you'd get out of having Russell Wilson and paying him $49 million,
and the weapons that you kind of got there with Sutton, Judy, they can play games, and yes, you lost Williams now, and
heart breaks with Javonte Williams because was on track to be a top 10 running back in the NFL, if not top 5.
So they've got potential. They've got the potential talent there to be a good offense, and middle tier. Yeah, they could be up there almost, equal with the Chargers and Chiefs, who are 4-2. Like they competed in that Chargers game very well, to the point that they were led nearly the entire game before throwing it away in overtime.
Hard question: is the season done? Is it in jeopardy or is it in done?
I think we could still potentially, if you write some of that stuff, get to that mid-tier offense. Try to target a wild card spot. Because you've got that defense, which is playing elite at the moment, even with a couple injuries. But that's the call. And maybe that rookie growing pains, maybe it's not this year, maybe you're building towards next year. And that's kind of what I was saying, I think, the last podcast is I'm not unsurprised with the lack of chemistry, and they're trying to learn all this stuff. Kind of expected it to go this way. Maybe not this bad. I didn't think we'd be worse.
No.
I thought we'd be... maybe in that 15 to 20 range, as we not a top 10 offense, but kind of being there and having the defense help us out. But it's been a little bit worse than expected, unfortunately.
three blokes sitting here, three NFL fans, three teams that we follow have all probably underperformed. We've got two blokes that are fans of 3-3 team, a bloke that's a fan of a 2-4 team. I'm not that concerned about the Bucks. I'm not that concerned about the Packers. I am concerned about the Denver Broncos.
Our division makes it difficult.
And that's the caveat.
The Chiefs at the top of
NFC, the NFC South, not a hard division.
Tampa still win it.
The NFC North, the Vikings playing out of their skin, but then you've got the Bears and the Lions.
Yeah.
The Broncos have to contend with the Chiefs and the Chargers and the Raiders, who are shocking on form, 1-4, but on paper probably not that bad either.
Yeah, and who do they win that game against? Like, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Denver, I think, lost by like 3-6-3 or something. Like,
And that's a classic offense that can't score points.
yeah,
Problem.
well, they're the same thing. Like, they're scoring. They've given up 6 touchdowns. Like I said, it was like 16, 12, and 16 were the points they've let in, and that's elite defense. Otherwise, but yeah,
Nothing wrong with defense.
You know, luckily for me, I'm a defensive fan because I'm enjoying these 3 and fucking out, so I get to watch more defense.
It's so great. I love seeing it in prime time all the time.
At least week 14, I think, is the next time we'll see Denver in prime time.
Thanks God for that.
Hopefully, they can put together some decent football between now and then.
Speaking of those Las Vegas Raiders, they have to win to stay relevant.
Hold on. You're skipping the Jets, and that's great because my note there is: should we be talking more about this Jets team?
No one cares. They're 4-2. Hang on, I saw a power rankings this week which had the Jets in the top 10. That's probably fair.
Yeah, well, I think the rookies. Look at
Sauce Gardner with a cheesehead waving to the fans at Lambeau.
How do you feel about that one?
If you're winning 27-10 away at Lambeau, I think we need to talk about the Jets.
Yeah.
I think, Hall has been unreal. He's basically...
He's been great. He's been so good.
Yeah, Wilson, I think, is going to have to take that role on more now with Elijah Moore requesting his trade. So he kind of wants out because he got 1 target in that game against...
And I think the game before he didn't have a catch.
Yeah, exactly. So
no, I think it was last weekend he had no catches.
Yeah, so I don't think he's loving his role there. He's kind of been
second
fiddle. Yeah, well, that is chat. Packers could potentially be one to, as a Randall Cobb replacement, as a great guy in the slot. Make the trade there. Probably going to have to give up a second-round pick, being a second-round pick, which would be a little bit rough. But, you never know. But, the Jets team, well coached. You've got to also think another Salo there, another coach potentially in Coach of the Year conversation. Flacco did enough for them, and Wilson's now back. We'll have to see how far he can take this team. I think we said in our draft special, they drafted really well, got a lot of good young talent.
Yep.
Just need them to put it all together, and they'll be a good football team. And we're starting to see it. So.
It's not a crazy world where they win tomorrow, and we're looking at the New York Jets being 5-2.
Yep.
You think the Buffalo Bills take out the AFC East? The Dolphins dropped a few games after starting 3-0.
Yeah, losing Tua hasn't helped them.
Again, we talk about divisions. That AFC East is tough this year, which is it's cool to see. After essentially 20 years of who's coming second to the Patriots kind of chat. It's cool to see an AFC East that's not only competitive, is probably going to produce 2, if not 3 playoff teams.
Yeah, very strong though.
So then if we do move, and we talk about those Texans and Raiders coming up as the next game. Oh, excuse me. Devontae Adams was probably the big story. Charged with assault for pushing a cameraman.
I don't know if that's assault. It's dumb. It's really dumb. It's frustration. He apologised straight
It's not assault
away.
in Australia. In America, you touch me, bro. That's assault.
Yeah,
you're copping a case.
I don't know if that's assault.
It's a week after Bobby Wagner, of course, copping, I think, the same sort of a charge for his hit on the streaker because the streaker got a concussion.
Did they push for assault?
Pushing for charges as well. So
that's one of the best things I've ever seen on a football field. Is that dumbass streaker getting absolutely smoked by Bobby Wagner.
I think if you're streaking and you're on the field, you're fair game.
Fair game,
I think if you're a cameraman in a tunnel...
No, of course. It's apples and oranges. It's completely different.
Shouldn't have shoved him. He apologised. I think it's more of like copper case. We'll settle out of court for a little undisclosed sum, and then we'll move on with our day. But wasn't great. It wasn't great viewing. I think they were leading that Chiefs game as well, and threw it away at the end.
Throw it away. To quote or misquote the great Billy Madison, That's not assault, brother. That's a push. That's a push. Don't condone it. Don't condone it. Very dumb from Devontae Adams, but is that assault? I don't think so. Let's talk about this game, boys. The Raiders should win this at home, you'd think. No Devontae Adams he gets suspended?
No, I don't. I think he's fine. I think Adams is fine to play.
So he's playing?
He's just copping a case. I think that's the thing. No, not a lot of news out of Texas land, story-wise. They've got a few young guys, and, again, another team trying to start to move. I actually think they might win this game against the Raiders.
Interesting.
Of course, I'm backing Pierce to have a huge game.
Damian Pierce is having himself a year.
Yeah, in that conversation for Rookie of the Year chat. So we'll have to see what that looks like. But bit of a no game, bit of stinky with the records for these two teams. Seahawks Chargers, not a lot of big stories out of these for either teams.
Other than Geno Smith playing lights out.
I think it's kind of eased off a little. He's been playing well, but they are 3-3. So
tied best in the division. Which no one expected.
Yes, that is true, though. They are tied best in the division.
And if you compare him head-to-head versus Russell Wilson.
Yeah. True. But I think which is maybe a bit of a caveat there, the offense that the Seahawks run, which is predominantly run heavy with the Pete Carroll. Kenneth Walker's been great for them. Let's talk about that. Helps the quarterback out in those situations. I think, again, if you want to go back to Denver, they're 80% in shotgun, which doesn't help their situations. Again, to the play calling and, hey, maybe your offensive system doesn't work, throw it out, start again. But Chargers, they're a bit banged up, they're a bit injured. Sneaker win against Denver during last week. I think Chargers probably get this job done here against the Seahawks.
I'd agree. Yeah, I think the Chargers improve their record, and I think the Chargers and the Chiefs, as I just mentioned, I think they go through out of that AFC West. Speaking of AFC West, the Chiefs go to San Francisco to take on the CMC 49ers.
I put it in the notes there, no big stories out of 49ers. Jimmy D's been good for them, but then they trade for CMC. So they give
bombshell?
Not an unknown bombshell because, of course, Mitchell's kind of coming back from injury. Jeff Wilson's, kind of been playing well.
Unlucky Jeff Wilson fantasy owners.
Yeah, and Mitchell, because I think Mitchell was coming back this week too. But, yeah, CMC will walk straight in there. Fits really well with what Shanny wants to do there, Kyle Shanahan. So, yeah, they've now got a wide receiver that can play running back and running back that plays wide receiver. And then Jimmy G will underthrow them both. So that's the joke. But
Jimmy G's hasn't been bad.
He hasn't been bad. He's been doing the good job for them. They've essentially gone all in pick-wise, Super Bowl season sort of thing. Getting rid of all their picks, not saving anything for Trey Lance era. I think it's a good pick-up. CMC will fit right into what they want to do. Whether he knows a playbook for this game is a different question. I think he'll end up fucking everyone that has any 49ers RB because I think they'll probably spread it out with like 5 touches apiece kind of thing because
I don't think
share the load. I don't think CMC will play heaps in this one to start off. But you never know. They're going to have to chase points, so maybe he'll play more against the Chiefs because the Chiefs again. They did drop a big game to the Bills there. Their news is, they're kind of in that RB and wide receiver market themselves. They freed up a bit of cash with Kels restructuring his contract, which made them kind of, I think even Kels said, you watch out, we've got something coming soon. Whether that was OBJ chat as well. It looks like they're looking for offensive talent help, either in the running back room or in the receiving room. Be interesting to see what that looks like.
Well, it really shows that offloading Hill at the start of the season hasn't really played out how they were expecting.
Yeah, well, I think they thought they could cover it with MVS and Smith-Schuster.
There we go.
Got it right, that one. But I think they've been underwhelming. I think they wanted more out of that position. And I think the same with the running backs. They kind of tried the rookie out a little bit. CEH has kind of been up and down for them, and they're relying on Mahomes to do a lot. So whether that changes and what they're planning to do, I don't know. But I think I think the writing on the wall there was that, hey, maybe they're looking to add something in that space. Because, they go up against the Bills who have, weapons all over the place. That's kind of where it's at. So in this game, I think Chiefs get the job done against
I agree.
the
I think Chiefs win tomorrow.
Then again, I look at the 49ers, their injury report, everyone's back. They've got the whole team's healthy. So if the 49ers are going to be at their best this season to take on a Chiefs game, this will be it. So I wouldn't rule them out.
If anyone can beat a team that's ostensibly better than them on paper, it's the San Francisco 49ers.
Yep.
It's coming from a Packers fan.
You're not salted all down there, do you? Learn to play special teams, bro.
Just real quick on OBJ. Teams are out there don't reckon he'll be back until mid-December. So still
he tore his ACL in the Super Bowl, which was February. So to have a quick recovery would be 10 months December.
Yeah.
He was seen in Minnesota during the week with his bags doing a visit. So
imagine that, Jefferson, Thielen, Beckham.
Yeah, well, I think maybe they're a little bit concerned about Thielen as a potential, second in there. Maybe move Thielen into the slot a bit more. Who knows? But either way,
still pretty handy.
Yeah. Because they're doing all right at the moment. Help Kirk Cousins out. As long as they don't play on prime time, I think they'll be fine.
Speaking of prime time.
Yeah, Steelers, Dolphins. Maybe we start with Tua. Ooh. Tua is back for this game. Do you think too soon?
I think he said on Pat McAfee that he didn't suffer a concussion. So I don't know.
Of course he's going to say that.
Out though. Yeah. He still had a brain injury. Your body doesn't do seizures.
Yes, and is he just doing the team thing and backing the doctors in there?
Of course.
Yeah.
But I think potentially after the back-to-back, you've only had a week off. I feel it's too soon.
Interesting. He shouldn't have never been put in that position in the first place, for one.
Yes.
It's hard because each concussion is different and they all manifest differently.
I agree, but I think you kind of want to take some time in between having two back-to-back, especially with the second one with the visuals on that.
Bad.
Yeah, your body's shutting down and your muscle spasming. That's the sort of shit, like we said, you see in the UFC.
I wonder if the sort of ascendancy of the New York Jets plays into the fact that Tua's back this week. It's kind of must win. Yeah, whereas if they were like, oh well, the Bills are going to win this division and we'll walk into a wild card spot, maybe that plays into the thinking.
Which I think's been the Dolphins' issues because they turned to Teddy Bridgewater. He got concussed, and then I think it was Skylar
Thompson. Yeah, Skylar.
Then came in and
a name that Breaking Bad ruined for me. Shout out to Skylar of Breaking Bad fame.
Yeah, the Gentleman's Club ruined me for that one. So anyway. Now coming to the stage.
I thought we were getting divorced last episode.
She won't listen 2 hours deep, so it was sorted.
No, she didn't listen to the first minute.
So
my wife said, "Oh, have you guys got 2 cameras?" She learned that today. There you go.
I'm just concerned of the seeing of the head injuries, not just across the NFL, but across all the different sports injuries and the visuals. You're concerned for the dude and then long term, how that kind of fits in. So, I feel it's too soon. I might have left it to the bye week, have your bye week and then come back.
Are they on the bye next week?
Potentially.
Okay. Gesicki probably had his best game last week, but does he want out of there?
No, I don't. Well, I don't think he wants to. But there's rumours he's on the trade block, so he potentially could move. Which is the thing. We're now getting to. This is week 7. The deadline's week 8. They haven't moved that, have they? It's still week 8.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So it's still week 8. So now all these trade rumours are starting to come up about guys getting moved, and we already talked about Claypool, Moore, now Gesicki. So. Could be a pretty hot trade window this year. We'll have to see what that all looks like. But yeah, that's the rumours for the Dolphins that he could potentially be on the move, trying to get some value for him.
Trade deadline's 1st of November.
So that's a week and a bit.
Week and a bit. So that'd be after the week 8 games.
Yeah. And so Dolphins bye is week 11.
Oh, okay. Maybe, okay. No. Rule that out then. Yeah. But I still think he should have had maybe another week or 2 potentially.
What do we think happens tomorrow? Oh, Trubisky and Deontay Johnson before that? What happened there?
That's the Steelers story. So, Trubisky, wasn't playing super bad in that game that he got benched on.
No, not at all.
But then Pickett came in, and then Pickett, of course, got hurt, and then Trubisky came out and then played pretty lights out and that and won the game. But
Strange that his name is Kenny Pickett because
yes.
he's been throwing a few picks, etc.
So Trubisky, the rumor is he had a fight with Johnson in the locker room. That's why he was benched. Pickett's come in. Pickett's now been said if he's healthy, he'll be the starter. That's what the coach Tomlin has said, which looks like the case. It looks like Pickett will start in this game. But I guess the question is Trubisky versus Pickett. Considering it wasn't form, it was actually fighting, and Tomlin said, "Yeah, I'm not having that in my locker room. Sit down, son." Where do you go?
Yeah, I think you have to go with the potential, don't you?
I agree.
Trubisky's shown that in Chicago, although being a high draft pick, a little bit underwhelming in the quarterback play, and Kenny Pickett was the first quarterback to go in this draft, wasn't he? Although not a strong quarterback draft, I think you have to go with youth and potential, don't you?
Yes, and I think that's what they've kind of decided to do going forward. So we'll have to see what that plays out. But yeah, it looks like Pickett to take on Tua. I think Dolphins to right the ship in this one and get the win here.
I agree.
Yep.
Final game, an absolute.
This is bad. Yeah, we're talking about bad primetime games. Monday Night Football.
Putting the Bears played. They played a Thursday night game not that long ago as well. Start with the Patriots. Do they have QB controversy? I've seen some.
Bailey Zappi's been pretty good, really.
I've seen some Bledsoe and Tom Brady comparisons.
Wow.
But then again, Mac Jones is not quite the established veteran that Bledsoe was in that storyline.
And big shoes to fill for Bailey Zappi.
yeah, exactly. But numbers-wise, he's
been good. He's been really good.
Been much better.
Hasn't turned the ball over, just controlling the offense.
Yeah.
We spoke about Detroit's offense being good at the start of the show. They scored 0 in this one last week against the Patriots.
Patriots, good defense.
That's something that people aren't talking about enough. The Patriots defense.
People forget that Bill Belichick is probably one of the defensive goats out there.
Oh, yeah.
The reason Tom Brady won a lot of those Super Bowls is because they had a lot of good defense on the other side of the field. I don't know. I think he's a 4th round pick this year, Bailey. So I guess he's kind of been picked as your backup there for your Mac Jones, who was your first rounder. But do you go with the hot hand?
No, I think when Mac Jones is healthy, he needs to play.
I think that's the way it's going. I think potentially it's less quarterback and more the offense starting to get a bit better. They did have Hunter Henry back, so getting healthier on the offensive side. Getting the wide receivers a bit more involved. We'll have to see what that looks like as they progress forward. But I tend to agree with Peps. We'll go Mac Jones for the foreseeable future. But hey, Bailey Zappi's right there now.
Pats win this tomorrow?
I'd say so. Justin Fields in the Bears offense, you think Denver's been bad? They've probably been as bad, if not worse. Is it a Fields problem or a coaching problem? Because they've got the new coach over there. I think that Thursday night game I referenced a minute ago with Fields overthrowing a bunch of guys and missing
he missed a few. But what he does with his legs as well, the fact that they were in a position to win that game is off the back of Justin Fields' legs. Just has to work a bit on that accuracy, doesn't he?
Yes, I think that's a big concern at the moment. And he could also be a little gun-shy considering how bad their offensive line is as well. He doesn't get a lot of time at all. So, I still think Patriots will get this done.
I agree. How about the teams on the bye this week? The 5-1 Buffalo Bills, the defending champion Los Angeles Rams, the 5-1 Minnesota Vikings, and the 6-0 Philadelphia Eagles. Elite teams that won't be playing this week. Is it next? I think it's next week that they go to daylight savings as well, so it makes it a bit more viewable for us early birds here down under.
Yes. And that's football. I think I mentioned the trade window that's coming up, so that's going to be big going forward. So I have to see how that all looks.
Let's talk some NBA.
Curry sets, fires, puts it up. Bang!
Bang! NBA. The NBA is back. We've had the opening week, the opening 5 days, I suppose, of the NBA. Look, it's a long season. We can't take too much on from what we've seen, but let's run quickly through, probably a shorter segment. Opening night happened Tuesday night, Wednesday, our time over there, with the Celtics running out winners against the Philadelphia Sixers. And
Sixers, I believe, are 0-3.
0-3, yes, that's right. The Adelaide 36ers had more preseason wins against NBA teams than the Philadelphia 76ers did. Thank you, at Trent Naden, for that one.
I think statistically Harden's been pretty good, but they're just...
Yeah, well, Embiid scored 40 today, and they lost. So the top end at Philadelphia, unreal. The bottom end maybe needs to step up a little bit. Look, it's 3 games into the season. Do we need to read into it too much? No, I still think the 76ers play playoff
When
basketball.
you talk Lakers, though, and some of those games, so there's some storylines there, which was your next game there.
Here's one. Gun to your head. Do the Lakers play playoffs this year?
Maybe if they trade Russell Westbrook.
Do they? This is complete devil's advocate. Do you trade LeBron to a team that's chasing a ring in the next year or two and try and get a bit of value?
Did he say it was his last year as well? Was there some of that rumours?
I think that's rumours more than anything.
Okay. If your Lakers, he is the Lakers though. That's the problem.
Yeah, that would be complete tanking for Wembanyama kind of.
He's basically
kind of
the GM. He's trying to put that. He's trying to put that team together. Well, Anthony Davis has been playing pretty well. He's back, but you're always worried about him getting injured. Pat Beverley's there now. I think they've got a good core.
Pat Beverley's meh. He's more entertaining for us than he is as an elite.
True. I think
guard
they're the good
in the
core.
NBA.
I think Russell's been a bit of a brick at the moment. He threw 0-11
Well, I think between 3 of them, they've shot 1 for 25.
Yeah, they're like 20% from 3-point range.
It's not been good.
Yeah,
It's not been good. Again, it's early.
Yeah, same. It's been It's been early, so yeah. Whether they move Russ and try to get someone else out there on the court, I don't know.
So back to the question of do they play playoffs? Looking at the standings there in the West, the Clippers play playoffs. The Pelicans, you'd think, play playoffs.
Beat the Lakers as well.
The Nugs, Grizz, Suns, Mavs, Warriors probably play playoffs.
Yep.
That leaves one spot. Between the Nuggets, the Jazz have started hot, but question marks. The Blazers have started hot, question marks. The Spurs have started hot, question marks. Doesn't leave a lot of room for the Los Angeles Lakers, does it?
Be a big call. I think they'll be stuck in the play-in tournament again.
True. Yeah, true.
I think that's where they're looking. It's health. They'll win a lot of games if they stay healthy.
Yeah, if LeBron goes down, that's line through them. They're done. You'd think.
Even if Anthony Davis goes down, I think we saw last year that puts the line through him because you then reliant on James to do everything, LeBron to do everything, and he just can't do that now at that kind of age. He's still going to win them games, but he's not going to take you all the way to a championship at this point in his career, I don't think.
How about just staying on the Lakers, that game that they lost to the Clippers didn't have a player that scored more than 15 points. They might be the deepest team in the West in terms of how much of a well-rounded basketball team they are.
Yep.
Paul George had 15. John Wall, great to see him out there. He had 15. 14 for Kawhi Leonard, 14 for Morris, 14 for Zubac. In terms of depth and not having to rely on guys, the Clippers might be one of the most well-rounded teams getting around. I think they'll do well in the West this year. The East, I think it's going to be similar to last year in that the Celtics and the Bucks probably are the teams to beat there. Yep. Miami haven't started great, but I think they'll be up there. A lot of talk, I suppose, in the coming weeks will be around the Philadelphia 76ers. Can they improve on that 0-3 start? And the Brooklyn Nets, Simmons he doesn't look that good.
Did you see he had another open bucket and he handed it off? So a drive to the bucket where he could have dunked it.
He didn't want it.
He didn't want it.
So. Speaking of open looks, you see the James Harden absolute breaking of ankles.
Oh,
Smart.
Smart. Marcus Smart.
Smart,
Defensive Player of the Year. Ankles broken. Shimmy.
Yeah.
Airball 3. And that said, Harden's been pretty good. But that little clip was doing the rounds. Bit of a laugh.
Back to Westbrook. Did you see the one where he was at the top of the key? Well, it was the top of 3-point range. No one within 5 meters of him. Like a beautiful open look to sink a 3. but he drove it to the hole. Like he's trying to get closer. His confidence shot from a guy that was putting up triple doubles. Like
Exactly. Exactly.
He's just, I think his just confidence has just gone completely.
Bold predictions a few weeks ago. I said Ja Morant for MVP.
He's been a lead.
Put up 49 yesterday.
He's not doing any harm to that potential for you.
Well, the main competitor, I think, Luka Doncic, scored 21 in a quarter today.
What did he finish up with? What did Luka finish up with?
Good question. Let's have a look. It wasn't that much, I don't think, because I had a look before the pod, and he was only on 25. He scored 32, 21 of which in the first quarter.
Well, they won their game by 40 points, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Against the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies, yes, did play yesterday, but I think that Mavs team, with Luka getting Christian Wood, I think they'll be pretty.
Wouldn't surprise me if they sat him down for a little bit towards the end of it.
Yeah, he played 30 minutes, so didn't play much of a game. Christian Wood 25 in 25 minutes, if you don't mind. The Mavs they'll be pretty good this year.
I agree. Well, still early days, but long season ahead.
Monks, anything to add? Any stat lines down there that? You just got the points?
No, not really. I just got the points.
How many's Jar got in 3 games?
Jar has got. Who's
your points leader?
Maybe that man might have only played 2 actually. I think they played 2.
Played 2.
How many's he got in 2 games?
83 points.
Fucking pretty handy.
Across 2. Behind him, we've got.
They played 3. That's in 3.
That's in 3. Yeah. Okay. Behind him, DeMar DeRozan, 69. Steph Curry, 67.
Speaking of DeMar DeRozan's old team, the Spurs, they've started okay. Won a few games. I don't think they play playoffs. That team is going to be heavily reliant on guys that aren't household names. They do have Jakob Poeltl, the big fella that's been playing okay, but I just wanted to talk briefly about they won yesterday against the Pacers. I just wanted to talk briefly about Devin Vassell. He was the 11th pick overall 2 years ago. He's only 22. I think he's dropped nearly 20 points in each of his. I think his play is going to be integral to the way that Spurs go. Don't think they play playoffs though.
They remind me of Utah Jazz a bit. Win a lot of games, but then get bumped out very early.
Well, it's interesting. The Jazz, who no one expected to do anything this year, losing Spider Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, have started 2-0. The Spurs, no one expected anything out of them, started 2-1. I think the caveat is it's a long season. Probably don't expect either of them to be playing playoffs in the West. All right.
Some soccer around.
Has only played 2 games.
Yeah. So he's averaging 42-ish a game.
I don't know if that's updated because they're 2-1, unless he missed a Memphis Grizzlies game. Maybe he did. I don't know. He's 49.
Put 49 on against Houston and then 34 against the Knicks.
Yeah, so that doesn't include today against the Mavs, which he played.
What did he get today?
20 points, I think.
Points.
So
gotcha. I thought you meant the 83 was across 3 games, not
No, yeah. That's what I thought you said as well.
That's what I thought you meant.
So he's got
103.
He's got 103 across 3 games. Quick maths.
We got there.
35-ish. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Soundbite time.
Oh, jeez.
Let's talk some soccer. Well, it may not make for the best listening, but it's going to make us laugh.
A few of these.
Should we start with Ronaldo?
Might as well, yeah.
Start with the
He's not starting.
No, well, he definitely did not say "see" to going onto the pitch in this game. They wanted to sub him on. Ten Hag wanted to sub him on in like the 89th minute in their 2-0 win against Tottenham, and Cristiano just turned around and walked straight into the locker room.
Yeah,
obviously
he doesn't want to play for a minute.
No, well, he doesn't. Yeah,
he wants to
do the team thing.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, you're arguably the best footballer of all time, but you got to go on and play a little bit of garbage time, don't you?
Yeah, but it's a minute though. Well,
but
it turns into 5. But yeah,
but that often happens. He's not used.
No, I think it was 4 minutes injury time. So
he's not used. He's not used to going on and letting someone have a 5-minute breather. But that's it's selfish, and you need to go on and do the team thing, don't you?
True, but he also wants to be playing, like starting.
Wants to be playing Champions League.
Yeah,
He's made that pretty abundantly clear. He's unhappy
with
his role at United.
Exactly. I think Ronaldo's kind of proved the point. You don't get back with your ex. Like it's done.
Just move on, bro. Just
exactly,
move on. Just throw those old photos out. Stop crying.
Yeah.
What if it's for the money?
Well,
Who's your ex? Brett Favre?
That's not his money.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it also could be part of his plan to get out too. It's like, I'm disgruntled. I want to be moved. So
Yeah, I don't know.
it worked for Robbie Anderson.
Yeah, probably Ronaldo even higher in the pecking order than Robbie Anderson of Carolina Panthers fame. I don't know. I don't like the look of it. It seems disrespectful, and I suppose if you're Cristiano Ronaldo, you've probably earned the right to be disrespectful.
Yeah, well, when he signed that contract,
Well-
he probably was expecting that I'm going to be playing games, not sitting on the bench. So
Yes,
he might be the other way as well. As you've been disrespectful for me, you haven't, done my wishes and done what's best by me and tried to move me on.
But it's egotistical. It's a team game. If United were coming
Ronaldo
16th,
and ego, bro.
if United were coming 16th and they were playing unders, maybe you've got the rights to dig your heels in the sand. They're playing good. It's a team sport.
Yeah.
True.
Does this sort of tarnish his legacy?
No, I don't think one act in one game
I think a better
tarnishes
question.
his legacy.
I think it's a better question is this season as well. Like he's sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
Then the better question is is Messi catching or taking a bigger lead? Because
you see the goal that
of GOAT status. Like that's the always who's your GOAT.
you could argue this forever, and we won't start the argument. I'll tell you who won the week. Lionel Messi won the week. You see that goal that he scored for PSG, tiki taka, him and Mbappe around the keeper and just pushed it in. Look, we're not going to talk about who's had a better career out of Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. I'll tell you who had the better week, Lionel Messi.
Yeah, but to Jimmy's question on legacy, as you're saying, Messi's adding to his and Ronaldo currently isn't.
I'll tell you what the conversation will be in the upcoming months in terms of legacy in these two guys. The World Cup.
Yep.
Neither have won a World Cup. Both of them have won, continental. Like Portugal's won a Euros during Cristiano Ronaldo's tenure. Messi's won a few Copa Americas. Neither have that World Cup silverware. So if we want to talk legacy, I suppose Qatar 2022 would be a good place to start.
Oh yeah.
True. So by all accounts, there's reports coming out that Man U are prepared to give Ronaldo a free transfer.
Yeah, interesting.
So writing could be on the wall there.
Yep. They don't. Obviously, they're not really using him. They're not incorporating him. Anthony of No H fame has been going pretty well. Maybe they do part ways with him. Why would you give him up for free though? Like, unless he's causing that much of a distraction amongst the playing group, he has been training by himself. Unless there's, that much of a discord, I suppose, between him and the other players. I don't know why you'd give him up for free.
I mean, again, it's Ronaldo. He's done so much for your club already. Do you want to keep it amicable and just leave it at that?
It's tough.
Is it worth the money?
Well, we're going to be talking about it for the rest of the year, aren't we?
Yeah.
Which I think that's the problem. That's no one's talking about Man U footy. We're talking about Ronaldo. So
United fifth. They're 6-2-3, 20 points. They're actually, if you think back to last year, it was a bit of a train wreck. Yes, they're not in those Champions League spots, but they're going out and beating Spurs. They're going out and they drew against Chelsea overnight. It seems like they're playing better football than they did last year. But yeah, obviously, if you're talking about arguably the greatest player of all time, and he's disgruntled and not getting minutes, it's going to be in the zeitgeist for the foreseeable future.
yeah, I agree.
Liverpool, talk about a team that's sort of not playing up to their potential. Did beat Man City last week, and you thought, oh well, here comes Liverpool, and then they go out and they lose to Not Forest overnight. Darwin Núñez got hurt.
Not Forest were bottom of the table, I think, as well.
Yes.
They won't be anymore, but they were.
Well, they're 19th now, considering they beat Liverpool overnight. If I'm a Reds fan, I'm concerned.
Oh.
They haven't been able to fill Sadio Mane's big shoes. And Nunes getting hurt. It's a string, probably misses 2 to 3 weeks. Diego Jota as well. Stretch it off with a calf injury. Not the best look for soccer players.
That being said, Nottingham at home at City Ground seems to be a bit of a hoodoo for Liverpool. They've never won. I think it's
Go back to the 70s.
6 games. So some stat lines here. So this is the first time that Nottingham's won over Liverpool since 1996.
But they've
it's a bit hard to...
They've been out.
Because
They've been out
in the league.
But City Grounds, Liverpool's never been able to
Hoodoo.
win there. Yeah.
Former dual Champions League winners, not Forest. City doing City things. Haaland scored a brace overnight in their 3-1 win over Brighton. I think he goes to 17 on the season. 17, ladies and gentlemen. Harry Kane is next with a measly 9. We spoke about Alan Shearer's record is 31. He did that twice in the Premier League era. You'd imagine Erling is going to be rewriting the record books with that one. Oh yeah, Gunners sit top of the table and
only lost 1 game.
Yeah, and I believe they play overnight. They play Southampton. Spurs Newcastle's probably the other big matchup of note overnight.
Yeah, I feel sorry for you if you know any Arsenal fans.
I know a few.
Yeah, they'll get stuck in.
Yeah, they've been a little chirpish. I think they also realise that we're only a third of the way through the season, and there's early crows. And on paper, Manchester City are the best team in this league. So probably not counting their chickens before they hatch just yet. There, the Gunners boys, but I think. Well, they're already on top of the league, are they not? Yeah, they're already a point clear of City. So a win against Southampton sees them go 4 points clear. It's early days, but, nothing wrong with being 4 points clear of top of the table.
Yeah, that's where you want to be at the pointy end. So,
the other big news out of this week was Steven Gerrard losing his Aston Villa manager role. He copped the sack. The Villains are currently 17th. They've won 2 games. I don't know if there's a little bit of pulling the trigger early. Steven Gerrard, obviously Liverpool legend, England legend. Would have liked to have seen him maybe get a few more games. So he'll be on the market if anyone wants to look at a new manager.
I did see a stat. I think his win percentage was like 35%, which was slightly better than the last coach was. So it's not like
maybe hard done by.
Yeah, it's maybe the coaching is not the issue, like you say. So
on paper, that Villains outfit's probably not. I think 17th is probably where they are.
It won't do Steven Gerrard any damage. He's done his coaching apprenticeship now, so I think he'll definitely be able to pick up a job anywhere else. There'll be teams looking to add him as a coach.
One more point of note: Leicester City still dead last. The 5,001-1 winners of the league just a few years ago. It would be massive if they do get the boot this year. Again, early stages. We've got Leeds, Villa and Wolves and not Forest, only a point ahead. Yeah. But it's starting to become a point of concern.
Yep.
That'll do us for Soccer Chat. There might be Champions League this week. Not sure. But the big talking points obviously will be Ronaldo moving forward and can Erling Haaland score 1,000 goals this year? All right. It's Sandbet time.
Go for it.
It's going to be cool when this is seamless, but it's a
final round, James.
It's a teething episode. Let's talk the On The Esky final round. Pretty good. That's pretty good. It rings out a little bit, that bell, but I think we can bring it in. UFC 280 occurred overnight in Abu Dhabi.
This morning for us, but yeah.
Yeah, lent to interesting viewing time. Had to be up very early. I bought the card. I watched the 2 championship fights as they occurred live, and then you could go back, obviously, and watch the undercard.
Yep.
We've got a new lightweight champion of the world in Islam Makhachev, defeating Charles de Bronx Oliveira via a second round submission arm triangle. Boys, thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think Islam very much dominated the fight with the wrestling, took him down, and
it was a very short fight.
Yeah,
very
very impressive to get the submission there over Oliveira, who's well known for having the most submissions in the lightweight.
Not in lightweight. I think he's got the most submissions in the UFC with 14. Yeah.
So it's great to be able to finish that. I question maybe the weight cut because it came out. Volk was told overnight, like his team was. They called his team and said, "Hey, make sure Volk's ready." It looks like they're struggling with the weight cut. They didn't name which team, but I've then seen some photos of Oliveira and his team doing the weight cut. I'd say it's most likely was Oliveira. So whether that 155 killed him to get to it and then to go in there up against the bear that is Islam as a wrestler, maybe just didn't have the juice for this one. I think Oliveira will come back. He'll be able to keep his name in that conversation in the lightweight division, or maybe he needs to go up. I think Oliveira is one of those dudes that a 165 division makes too much sense for. Like he's probably not big enough to be a welterweight at that 170, which would be a 175 in that scenario. But I think like 165 is just perfect for him.
Why would you go up after just vacating at 155?
Because he can't make the weight.
Yeah,
like he's killing himself
struggling.
to get to it.
Famously missed weight, and that's why he had to vacate the belt.
Yeah. There's some kind of, controversy around whether he did or not, but still, either way, for him to get to that weight has always been a struggle. And you can see how leading up to it, the weight cut and his team, I don't want to make excuses for it, but I just think maybe that played a little bit of a factor into this one. Hasn't hurt him in the past with all these other wins, but I don't know.
He was on an absolute heater, hadn't lost for 5 years. That record goes to 33-9, but nearly all of those losses earlier on in his MMA career. Big scalps in Gaethje and Poirier and Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson, but we've got to talk about the new lightweight champion of the world, Islam Makhachev.
Yeah.
Understudy Khabib. A lot of people were saying, the new Khabib, the new Eagle of Dagestan. I thought, geez, is that a lot of pressure to put on an up-and-coming fighter to be, compared with arguably the greatest fighter of all time? It seems to have handled the pressure pretty well.
Well, I think the big difference, though, is it wasn't just a comparison. Like, he's coached by the bloke.
He's coached by him. His style's the same.
Yeah. I think that makes a big
difference. They're best mates.
Yeah. If it was... we're just comparing you to the GOAT, and you're like, you didn't know the bloke, then you're just like, oh, well, how am I going to compare to that dude? But
whereas
Islam, in and out every single day, he's, spending time with that guy, so he knows what that means.
Yeah, you're comparing me to my coach and my friend.
Yeah, exactly. A guy that I can then talk to about what I do in those situations and to learn from. I think it's a bit of a different comparison in that regard, and I think it's fair, and he can deal with it for that reason. So, his record speaks for itself, 23-1. He's had a quick ascendancy in the lightweight division, but for good reason. Did, of course, the story called out Volk, the short man.
The short man.
Which will be it will be an interesting kind of fight there.
Will Dana make this happen? You'd think so.
I think so. Like Perth, I think we've already talked about it, UFC 284 coming up. Well, maybe it's too short of a turnaround.
That's booked for late January,
or late January, early Feb. Yeah,
that's enough. It's 3 months.
I think it was like the 12th of Feb.
Yeah, but that it kind of means that Islam probably needs to go straight back into fight camp. Like maybe he takes 2 weeks off and then's in fight camp leading up to it, which he might not want to do. But you never know. Either way,
I think it makes sense.
That's the fight. Yeah, I think. He already Dana's already said Volk would get the winner.
Yep.
So that came out. He was the backup for this. One of the two didn't make it. But yeah.
How if you're Alexander Volkanovski and you've got to go up a weight class, do you think he's feeling confident that he can?
I think talent wise, he's definitely
keep it going.
I just
after cleaning out that featherweight division.
Yeah, I just don't know. Islam's probably the worst potential matchup.
Different beast, isn't he?
Yeah, size in the wrestling. It's Volk's got a great takedown defense, but it is again. It's still it's a different animal. I'm never concerned about the height, the size, like the reach kind of side of it, because he's fought Holloway multiple times, and he's the same size as Oliveira is. Like,
yeah.
I'm not too concerned about that. But I think maybe more the strength and the kind of game that Islam kind of brings with that.
You don't want to go
wrestling
to ground with
style.
that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I'm interested.
Fucking
That's
oath,
the
I'm
main thing.
interested.
I'm interested.
How good is
I'd
this
like to
card
see-
going to be if that does eventuate? Let's talk about it briefly now.
Yeah, yep.
Bobby Knuckles.
Bobby Knuckles, yep.
Announced
America.
will be taking on Polo. I drink wine before a championship fight.
Greenberg Costa.
In Perth.
Yep. Well, which will be the
first
co-main.
fight down under in many years.
Well, I think that's been definitely named as the co-main. Whether that ends up being what the main event ends up being, whether this ends up being it, I don't know. I kind of interesting because I think Bobby's doing Israel's job for him at the moment. He's taking care of all the challenges.
Taking
Victoria's
care of
gone.
business.
Whether if he gets past Costa doing that as well, and I guess Israel's got his opponent set in Pereira next. But
How sexy is that going to be?
yeah,
Just
but
quietly.
I think if Bobby gets the win again, he's kind of said, "Hey, I've been doing the job clearing out the division for you. It's you and me again, baby. Let's run that trilogy."
Lead blocker.
Yeah, so, exactly. It's one hell of a gatekeeper to have as a number one title challenge.
fucking oath it is.
Contender. So anyway, I think, like you said, great fight. Bit
Bit of controversy in Hamzat Kamaev getting into a bit of push and shove with Abu Bakr Nurmagomedov and the
who had a win, I think, on the undercard.
He did have a win on the undercarve. Does Hamzat need to cool his jets a little bit? He's starting to become known as a bit of a bad boy, as a bit of a hothead.
I wonder if he's leaning into the villain.
Yeah, maybe,
maybe
yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Because you saw the UFC signed Hasbulla to do a fight.
How good is that? Little baby Hasbulla.
Yeah, so you can see that there's the bit of the showmanship part of it, and the storylines make fights, and whether that's the case, and that's kind of what he's pushing here.
You don't want it to become too WWE-esque, though, do you? Where it's all about the theatre and the storyline.
There is a little bit of history between these two, at least the teams.
Yeah, sure.
I definitely the teams
Gone around on Twitter and stuff, so maybe there's some background there. And I mean, the Nurmagomedov's team, obviously very fiery, like off the McGregor fight and all that sort of stuff. So
but
I think
but
there's
Hamzat,
a lot of push and shove, a lot of being a chess spot.
exactly. But Hamzat, he should be angling for a title fight at this point. He doesn't need to be getting into it with guys on the undercard. So.
I love watching him fight, but I'm starting to get the feeling like maybe he just needs to keep his head down and bum up and get on with things a little bit.
Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
The co-main event, Aljamain Sterling. We've got a NU in Islam Makhachev. We've got a and still at 135 pounds, taking care of business against TJ Dillashaw. I did like that the TJ Dillashaw coming out to "Can't Stop Addicted to the Shindig" got me a little bit fired up. But that shoulder of TJ Dillashaw, it popped out twice during the fight. He said post-fight that he reckons in the camp it came out maybe 20 times.
Early.
I've seen plenty.
April.
I've seen plenty of jokes. It's not the only thing he was popping out, so or popping in, or he'll pop off. He had an excellent rig going into this old Dillashaw, but didn't matter. Sterling did the job to
What
him.
do you see Sterling rig? I reckon
Yeah.
he's probably been having a talk with.
Yeah, Sterling.
Allegedly. Here on the Esky.
Looking very good there.
He looks fucking big for 135 pounds, doesn't he, old Aljo?
Yeah. If anything, I think maybe that's what Volk should be tackling. Maybe
Laying down.
or no, not down. Like Sterling coming up, maybe. But I guess that doesn't help his double champ.
I know.
But anyway,
Volk is short for a featherweight, but famously used to play rugby league.
He's thick, though.
He's thick.
He's
Yeah,
thick.
I don't know if he could go down. Maybe Aljo could go up.
Yeah, I think
But
Aljo could go up.
Also, Volk doesn't have to take that fight. He's probably earned the right to go up.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense in that regard. But I just making fights that are interesting. I think TJ, that means he'll go back to the back burner for quite a while, and I'm not sure who else we've got bantamweight as contenders now. With actually no, Sean O'Malley. I guess jump straight to the queue.
I don't know if he'll get it, considering that he hasn't beaten anyone of note outside of Piotr Jan.
But Jan's number one.
That's true. I think Cheeto Vera might say, hey, hang on, let's have a rematch there. Aljo after the fight saying he doesn't care if you give me Sugar Tits O'Malley or if you give me Cheeto Doritos. He's happy to fight whoever comes back up. But Aljo, starting to really stake a claim as a title holder that is above and beyond the other guys in that division. There was probably a bit of speculation after that first win against Yarn, it being the disqualification and the rest of it. Now maybe this shoulder dislocation, some haters might be talking a bit about it.
The second fight against Yarn, he cemented himself. He handily beat him. So.
And I'm pretty convinced if TJ's shoulder doesn't pop out at all in this fight, Aljo still had him covered.
Exactly. So
let's talk about Sugar Sean O'Malley, the formerly 11th ranked bantamweight, going out and beats Piotr Jan in the most contentious fight of the night, split decision.
A very, very close fight.
29-28, two judges scored it to O'Malley, and 29-28, one judge scored it to Piotr Jan. Thoughts?
So I think your notes covered it there. It comes down first round. Second round, heavily dominated by Jan, and third round, more so with the significant strikes, a bit of blood in that involved as well, to O'Malley. So it kind of came down to the first round. Stats-wise from media, I think it was about, if I do the maths right, I think it was 83% thought Jan won with, 14 thinking it to O'Malley with a couple of percent, either way, for draws and things like that. I think it was like a 40% to, 30-28, 29-28 to Jan, and then like a 30%, 30-27 to Jan, and then the smaller percentages to an O'Malley victory. And that's across media personality, across all the different guys that do UFC coverage and across all the various websites, etc. So there's a heavy kind of push there to Jan. So the first round ends up being the conversation. And rewatching that, I think there was two significant punches landed for O'Malley, one for Jan. Both had stuffed takedowns that didn't amount to anything. The slam takedown probably being the big one.
Big slam.
For Jan, with a couple of shots on the ground. Guess I can see the coin toss and why maybe two judges picked it, and over that, I kind of lean towards that Jan maybe got that first round from what I saw. So maybe, hard done by in that decision. And considering he's 1-4, 1-3, I think, in his last fights, and two of them being contentious split decisions, it's been a bit unlucky for Jan.
You think the UFC has it in for him?
I don't want to. Well, there was all that conversations about he's the champ. We'll do a UFC in Russia, etc.
Sean O'Malley, the darling of that division in terms of marketability,
exactly,
following, and the rest of it.
Yeah, so
tinfoil hats. I'm not a big conspiracy theory man, but I'll entertain the idea.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I could have seen it drawn in this fight as well.
Yeah, that'd be a letdown, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but either way, it was kind of a flip of the coin. Maybe Jan had to do more in that first, but I think he got away with the first round. In my opinion, watching it, I thought he won the first round.
Scoring,
so it would have been 2-1.
Scoring aside, if you look at the way that Piotr Jan looked after the fight, and you look at the way that Sugar Sean O'Malley looked after the fight, considering that massive split over Piotr's right eyebrow area and him pissing blood, scoring aside, you'd say Sean O'Malley wins the fight.
Maybe, but that's why I score it round and round.
That is true.
He won the last round definite, which is where he did that damage. So.
Yeah.
And that's something that you mentioned in the group chat today. Yeah. Does damage outweigh control? Because obviously Jan had control of the whole second round and the majority of the fight, but the damage that Sean was able to unload in those significant strikes, do you take that into account?
Well, he won that round. So the problem, I guess the question is the damage in the for me, the two big punches to the one versus the takedown and a couple shots in the ground, is that what outweighs? And that's why they've gone with Sean, as he had more damaging shots overall in that first round.
Well, that's it. Like
it's
as much as Jan got those takedowns, he didn't really capitalize on him too much. Like he didn't really do too much on the ground. Like sure, he controlled him through the end of the rounds, but then O'Malley was still able to get back up in that first round. He ended the round with a couple good hits, which sort of, I guess, for the first round swung the momentum to O'Malley towards the end of that first round. So maybe just the fact that Jan wasn't able to do too much while he was on the ground.
Yeah, it's pretty rare for a guy to have 6 takedowns to 0 and A, lose a flight and B, not be able to capitalise really from those takedowns.
So overall, I don't think it hurts Jan too much. I think he might move down a spot in the rankings. I don't think O'Malley, whether he goes straight to 1 or whether he's, say, top 4, I don't know. But, yeah.
Does he get the first shot at Aljo? From a marking perspective, again, tinfoil hat, it kind of makes sense. Yeah.
I think to be fair to Jan, you'd probably run this one back. I don't know if you'd have O'Malley fight someone else in between.
I don't think O'Malley
would run it. You couldn't do that.
I think in Jan's say Jan would want to run it back. I don't think O'Malley would do it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be interesting. Let us know in the comments. We might clip this and do a UFC 280 review. Obviously the most contentious fight of the night and maybe the most interesting talking point.
Yep.
Yeah, agree. Definitely.
The other lightweight fight that happened on the night was Beneil Dariush defeating Matheus Gamrot. Unanimous decision, definitely not as contentious as the fight after it. 8 win streak now for the Iranian-born Beneil Dariush. He's going up there now in lightweight total wins, not far behind Charles Oliveira in that regard. Complete fight from Dariush. Probably just wanted to touch on the post match, speaking to his homeland of Iran and to stay strong. Obviously, we've seen bits and pieces of what's going on over there.
A lot of shit.
Yeah, essentially. But the bloke can fight. His age probably a bit of concern moving forward. Monks, how old is Beneil Dariush? Mid-30s?
Yeah, it's 33.
33. He looks a bit older.
He does.
No disrespect. Look, I don't think he'll be a lightweight champ. I don't think that's going out on a limb to say that, but a very complete performance.
This is his run. He's on an 8-fight win streak. He probably needs one fight in the top 5 and get that win, and then potentially you're in that conversation for lightweight. But as we mentioned, the lightweight is kind of occupied and busy at the moment with the Volkanovski fight, etc.
Exactly, yeah. You got the fact that Volk's going to come up and that's going to be your title fight. And then that top 5 in the lightweight division is as good as any that there is getting around with Dustin Poirier, and Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler. So he'll get one of those names, you'd think, moving forward. But hard to see him getting a shot at the title. But who knows? 2 or 3 fights and he's 35 and he keeps stringing wins together. You never know.
Him and Chandler would be a good matchup, I reckon.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be cool to watch. It'd be cool to watch.
I think there's a conversation Chandler and McGregor.
Everyone wants Conor. Everyone will say, "Oh, sorry, Beneil."
But I think Dana said you wouldn't see Conor until December anyway. So
interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
And we'll just talk briefly about the girls' fight that kicked off the main card. They fought at a catch weight between the French woman Manon Fior and Caitlin Chukagian. Fior winning on unanimous decision, and maybe an unknown name. I had to do a little bit of research. Interesting character. Was a French snowboarding champ. So overachiever is what my wife said when we were watching this morning. Karate background.
Comparison to you, definitely.
Yeah, underachiever. Yeah, all the potential in the world, and
been playing unders.
Yeah. Anyways, karate background. We don't see too many karate background.
Not a lot. Machida being the classic one.
Yeah. Who's the chick? The karate mama. Karate.
Michelle.
Anderson. Yep. But not many karate backgrounds. Was a black belt at the age of 18. And undefeated in her Muay Thai career. 10-1 MMA record. She just beat the number 1 in that division. May run into Valentina Shevchenko.
Yeah, did you see the video of Shevchenko? She did the old Tinder swipe like, nah.
Oh, really? And fair enough.
She's like, yeah, not interested.
Like, fair enough. Yeah. Like, a great performance from Manon Fior, but Shevchenko is up there with one of the biggest assassins in this sport.
Definitely. We talked about UFC 284.
We talk about baby Hasbulla.
We did talk about Hezbollah. Maybe some.
In the octagon after Islam's win, he's cute as fuck. He's got a massive following. Might get a Hasbulla shirt, you know. Who knows?
I do.
Bit of boxing?
We'll
Briefly?
cover for some Boxley. So Hani won against Kambosos and decidedly fashion pieced him up.
Pieced him up, I think.
That was in America, I believe that fight happened. So,
Yep.
But keeps all his belts, keeps going forward. Wilder had his win, right straight, put the dude to sleep. I don't even remember him, but it was a short fight. I think it was second round. He knocked him out. Keep that division rolling along. I think some fights announced for Tyson Fury. He's got fighting a dude he's already beat twice, so it was a bit unders and underwhelming for his announcement. And I think Terence Crawford is chasing Spencer for another big fight, but it's not going to happen this year. So he's kind of getting stuck in the media about he's dragging his feet with not signing the deal and get it done, because I think they're both unanimous in their divisions currently, and that would be a huge fight in that regards too. So not a huge amount happening in the boxing world, but there's a little bit.
Just briefly back to Deontay Wilder. It was Robert Helenius that he knocked out at Barclays Center in New York City in the first round.
Yeah, if you see
that top end of the heavyweight division seems to be
very top end.
Yeah, head and shoulders above the contenders.
Yeah.
That Haney Kambosos fight was here in Melbourne.
It was Melbourne.
Was,
I couldn't remember if they doubled up in Melbourne or not, but yeah, he came
Yeah.
back here and again beat our lad on home soil.
And you'd think Kambosos doesn't get another shot now. You'd think Haney, he's only 23
Very
and he's
young.
got all the belts.
He's in
I
a
think
league.
Kambosos, there was rumours that he'd say he'd retire if he didn't win. But
Really?
Not
How
sure.
old's he? George Kambosos, quick Google. He'd be
young as well.
Mid-20s?
29.
Late 20s? Yeah, late 20s. There you go.
Yeah.
He's been a champion of the world. He would have made his money. Nothing else to prove if that's the way he goes. Look, you'd hate to see it as a fan of Australian boxing, but if that's his choice, you'd definitely respect it.
Oh, he has come out saying he'll be champ again. This is not the end.
Rumours here on the Esky.
Rumours.
He's got to go away and make a run
Yeah.
and get back in that
That's it.
conversation.
One of the Paul brothers is Paul Silver's fighting.
Yeah,
Jake
that's
Paul
weekend.
wins that.
upcoming.
This weekend. I think
this
it's next
weekend.
Sunday.
Oh yeah, that was an ad. I saw the ad for it a second ago. Yeah, so that'll be interesting. Jake Paul, Anderson Silva incoming.
Yeah.
Uh,
Probably Paul's biggest test.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
For fighting a dude.
I guess a 47-year-old Anderson Silva. Is that what it is?
He's up there. I don't think he's that. He's in his 40s. I don't think he's that old.
He's 45 at a minimum.
Yeah. But at least Silva's been winning boxing fights against semi-decent opponents. So
47.
hey, you are right. There
Let's
you
go.
So yeah. All right, let's finish this bitch up with some
Wrap
sports.
it up with some
Give us some race cars.
F1.
Sebastian Vettel.
Pretty good. It's pretty good. Righto, boys.
We'll
Circuit
figure
of the
it out.
Americas happens later tonight, but
Yep.
we're looking back at
Yeah, I
the
think
race in Suzuka.
We got to talk about Max Verstappen though. We got a back-to-back world champion, as you will, second time for
Yeah.
Red Bull. Interesting result. Wet race in
Yeah.
Japan. They got a race in.
They did
So-
get some sort of a race.
Yeah.
How was it for viewing?
Was it a good time slot for us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Was that the best thing about it?
Yes.
Yes.
Considering I think tomorrow's race starts at 6 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
I like that time. Like for me, it's very difficult to watch these F1s in Europe when it's like midnight
Yeah.
or 1 a.m. Or
Well, they usually start at 11, so the 11 o'clock's not too bad of a time slot. But yeah, you still finish at 12:30 kind of thing. But either way, Max Verstappen got the win. But it was interesting. They had a bit of controversy and trying to work out a bit of confusion around the points and the length of the race and whether they'd get full points for this to actually make him a winner.
Yeah.
Was it Sainz crashed out? I was just wondering. Leclerc didn't, but Leclerc finished.
He finished third. Finished second. Got a
By a
5 second
five-second penalty,
Yeah.
yes.
So the confusion.
Runs through it.
Yeah, the confusion with that was Spa last year, which was the other rained out race.
They got 2 laps, I think. behind
Yeah.
the safety car in total for that one.
Yeah. So they got only 2 laps behind the safety car, and Max won it at half point. So the FIA was sort of like, well, that doesn't really count as a race.
Yeah.
The rule was
It's percentages. Or something.
it's half points if you don't race 75% of the required laps. So two laps didn't make 75% of the race, so half points there. Less than 75%. So during the off season, FIA was like, all right, we're going to change the rules. If the race isn't restarted within the allotted time, then there's no points awarded. I'm assuming the way they worded that, I don't know. I don't think no one on the table is here as a lawyer, but we like to think we are.
Like to think we're doctors, that's for sure.
That's it. I think because they reworded that rule, it meant that if you don't complete 75% of a race, you get awarded half points. So if a race is finished, then you get awarded full points.
Yeah.
So because of that, Max was awarded full points.
Yeah, because they've got the 2 windows. They've got the 3-hour allotment time and then the 2-hour race window.
Yeah.
So they completed 28 laps of 53, but it was the 2-hour end for that 28. So they ran up to the end of the 2 hours.
Yep.
So they completed it on the race timer.
Yeah, that's it. So awarded full points.
Because they all thought they were getting half points, which means he wouldn't have won.
No,
he would have won this week anyway.
So if it was on half points, it would have had to have waited till this week. I think even if Leclerc on full points, if Leclerc had come second, he would have. I think it would still have come down to this week as well.
Well, on commentary, they thought they were only getting half points. They didn't think he won.
That
was only that's really.
I think it was real confusing all the way through. And off the restart. Also, actually, we should probably go back to the start. There was a real, I don't know, scary moment.
Yeah, dodgy moment. The race tractors allowed a tractor on the race circuit to pick up a race car, and then Gasly, who'd stopped for tyres and actually was behind everyone, had to complete the lap to then get back into the pits because they red flagged it, then had to drive past the car to the tractor. So they theoretically shouldn't have let the marshal out there, which is reminiscent of what happened to what's his name? Jules Bianchi.
Yeah.
Which was that in Japan?
That was in Japan.
It was in Japan where he
Another
came off
race affected.
and went under the tractor and then, of course, tragically lost his life. So what they ended up doing was they ended up fining Gasly for speeding under the red flag on track, which kind of tried to push it over here. But I think the F1 world and F1 drivers were like, you can't be doing this. That's a complete fuck up. You can't have marshals out there, especially a tractor on racetrack with a car on the racetrack. So, they were trying to be too quick with it, and then it didn't work out.
Yeah, that's it.
So again, so I think they're called for reviews and etc. and all the like. But either way, so from Japan, Max wins. He wins it, but then we've got to talk about the cost cap shenanigans. Because came out that Red Bull were 1.6 mil or something over the cost cap. They all agreed on the 140 mil think pounds as the cost cap. So essentially, I think what happens is they didn't pay for catering for their staff of 1,000 people, so they didn't
count that.
They didn't count their food budget, which they're all on site in the factory. They have to count. They didn't. There was some concession that they qualified for that they didn't put in for, which I think would have covered them some money. And there was another corporate thingy that they'd done, but they didn't spend the $1 million in this. They could have spent it on car development, which I think was Zach Brown's comments. So the McLaren, hey, if you're going to cheat. If you're going to allow cheating, we might as well all we'd be doing if we're all getting slapped on the wrist.
Well, that's it. It's sort of a false ceiling. So a minor infraction is 5% over your cap. Sorry. So it's like if you don't get penalised for that, everyone will just spend 5% over their cap, and then everyone's the same playing field. So Zach Brown came out saying like, what's the point of having the penalty if you don't enforce it? I think he was going pretty hard on trying to enforce like financial penalties this year in terms of like what you overspent last year. Your caps this year's reduced by double that, reduced time in like some of the aero time that they get allotted each year.
Yeah,
I think
a more significant penalty than what they're kind of putting forward.
Yeah.
You know, it's not they had been, you know, this has put Max's championships at concern, but it sounds like it was minor enough that, you know, they wouldn't do that, but they want to push the teams that of course were, you know, by the books, are pushing for a heavier kind of sanction for this, and that, you know, this is cheating, so allowed cheating kind of thing.
Well, that's it. I think Hamilton came out saying that in one of the races he needed a new part that was like $100,000 or something like that.
Yeah, couldn't do it.
If they overspend on the cap, he gets that piece, saves a couple of seconds, he wins the race. So it's a lot of, I guess, that back and forth. I think the FIA and Red Bull have gone into some undisclosed agreement.
Yeah, they were going to make an announcement on Friday and then didn't do it. So
I think they have. I don't think they're going to disclose what
it was.
It was, similar to Ferrari a few years ago, with their settlement over, I think it was engines or something like that. So
it was a pretty interesting viewing of the race directors, and the team principals in this regard, because they had Zach Brown and Christian Horner on stage together at the same time, and Horner's kind of rebuttal was, you know, we've done nothing wrong besides all that stuff, but, you know, going down the mental health part, like, you know, this really impacts our employees. You know, their children in the playground are getting bullied because of this.
Because they didn't get lunch.
Exactly. That's pretty funny. But to me, it kind of seems a little bit like of a wet kind of response in this for what was done. So we'll have to see what happens. But either way, at the top, like you said, we're in Texas. That race early tomorrow morning to see what that kind of looks like. Max and Perez did get booed a bit on the crowd by the crowd when they did some open mic stuff, as they usually do at the during the race weekend, which is interesting.
Is that an American thing? Like, there's no American drivers, is there?
No, I don't know. Just, you know, F1 fans booing the Red Bull team.
Okay.
Making a bit of displeasure there. Either way, Sainz is on pole. Leclerc, I think, was second, but it's taken a 10th-place grid penalty. So Max Verstappen will start second. Lewis and Russell will follow in third and fourth. I think Lando was fifth. Ricciardo, unfortunately, I think finished 16th. Some news on his front. Looks like he's going back to Red Bull to be a reserve driver next year.
Yeah. Is that confirmed yet, or is that all just rumours?
It's a very solid rumour, I think, is the case. There's some chat about Haas trying to, you know, coax him back across, go over there, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. He wants to compete. So it looks like he's going, you know, putting steps in place to compete in 2024, which means maybe go to Red Bull, do some practice drives, show he's got speed, and maybe gets picked up elsewhere. Or maybe, I don't know, how does he slot back into that Red Bull seat?
I mean,
that'd be at the expense of Perez, you'd think, but Perez has been doing enough job, I would have thought, for Red Bull to keep winning the Constructors' Championship as well.
Yeah, that's it. I suppose it comes down to what does Perez want? Like, if he reckons he's competitive enough to win a championship, like, Red Bull's always going to be on Verstappen, so Perez might be moved out again. That might leave room for Ricciardo. Would be weird for Ricciardo to sort of make that big circle back to Red Bull after leaving to Renault to start fighting for a championship.
What were we saying about X's earlier? I don't know. Because there was chatting he might go to Mercedes as a reserve driver because they got an open spot as well. But it looks like he's going to one of the top two teams as a reserve driver. And
I'm not sure how it happened, but I think that rumour got kind of killed off, and I think that's what started this Red Bull rumour up again. Yeah.
Oh, anyway, we'll have to see what plays out for Ricciardo in the off season next season. Driver news: Logan's is it Sturgeon or Sargent? Sargent to he's going to Williams, so he'll take that Williams spot. He himself is a Yank and American, kind of, I guess, like pushing that conversation about getting Americans. So the growth of the sport in America.
I think he'll be the only American on the grid next season.
He's only 21.
Yep. He needs to get points in his super license up as well, but it looks like he'll be able to do that. So he'll go to Williams. ESPN redid their deal with F1, so through to 2025 F1 on ESPN. And then, James, you got the final story there of the actual founder of Red Bull passed away.
Yeah, Dietrich's match.
Matisic.
I didn't want to say his name, so
Yeah.
that's why I handled
I got
Dietrich
Dietrich.
Matisic, I think.
Right. Yeah. So the founder or co-founder of Red Bull unfortunately passed away, age 78. Over, I suppose it was overnight.
Breaking news.
Yeah. So obviously very influential in the Red Bull F1 racing team. So he'll be sad news, and I'm sure he'll be greatly missed around the team. Around the world, I guess. Yeah.
That will wrap up our episode of On The Esky. Thank you to those that have listened to the whole thing. Hope you're having a good week. If you are listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, we'll be back this weekend. Is that confirmed?
Yep.
We'll be back.
regular scheduling now, hopefully.
Was today's 98. 99 next week and 100. It's going to be interesting listening back, see how those sound bites go. Bit of teething around that, but I think that will make for better listening and breaking up the show, etc., etc. Lads, thank you. A bit of a longer one today.
Sri Lanka to sign off, did it easy.
Sri Lanka's
only
just
dropped
been-
a wicket. They won in that match too.
Walked it in against Ireland, and I'm going to go home and get on the couch and watch this India-Pakistan game.
Definitely.
All right, this
Thank you,
is
boys.
On The Esky. Thank you, lads. See you next week.
Bye.
Catch ya.
Bye.